Move to open the select board executive session under Mass General Laws, Chapter 30, Section 21-2, to discuss and conduct strategy sessions in preparation for contract negotiating regarding the town manager's contract renewal, where a meeting in an open meeting might have a detrimental effect on negotiating the position of the town.
Second.
All in
Then
favor?
we'll take a roll call vote. Ms. Ackerman?
Aye.
Ms. Hartman?
Aye.
Myself, I'm an aye. Mr. McKenna?
Aye.
And Mr. Belli?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay.
I am calling to order the March 17, 2025 Select Board meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Very good.
I see everybody is present. I see I should have muted my computer. The select board will now have public comments. Public comments are for about 15 minutes. And please restrict your comments to items that are not elsewhere on the agenda and to 3 minutes so that we have an opportunity to hear from anyone else that might want to speak. Do I have any public comments? Anybody online? If you're online, use the raise hand function. I don't see any. Okay,
Okay,
okay.
moving on to the consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda with thanks to John Hickling for the gift to the Concord 250 Fund
Let's ask if anyone wants to remove anything.
and Concord Centers LLC. We will do that.
Does anyone want to remove anything from the consent agenda?
Nope. Nope.
Good.
Okay,
Second.
thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Very good.
Okay. I think we're ready to hear from Shannon already.
We are.
All right, hello. So there are two common carrier applications in your packet. These are generally used in our town for group tour guides. So if they want to bring someone in on a bus tour, they're able to do so. One is for Maria Stevens of Boston Hidden Gems, who's online, and then the other is Joseph's Transportation, who typically had worked with Beth Williams with the Liberty Ride.
Great. Any questions for,
Nope. Nope.
very good. Do you have a motion?
Well, I just had one. Is there anything special that either of these carriers are planning to do for this year as opposed to past years?
I didn't hear from Joseph's Transportation on that, but I know that they specifically said leading up to the 250th, they wanted to make sure they had a license. And I'm not sure about Maria, but if she wants to speak to that, she can.
Sure. Yeah, we actually, we've run tours to Concord before, but we bought the van that is now triggering the common carrier license to the passenger side for the 250th, but our tour content is not changing.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I guess we're ready for a
Anybody
motion.
else
We should
have any
begin.
questions?
Nope. No question.
Okay. How about a-
All right. Move to approve the common carrier licenses for Maria Stevens, Boston Hidden Gems, and Joseph Albinato, Joseph's Transportation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Very good.
And that
Thank you, Maria.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Is Mimi ready?
Yes.
She is.
Yeah.
Mimi just walked
Just
in.
snuck in.
Oh, good. Oh, she was hiding behind
I'm
Dakota.
not used to being so early. And she's wearing her green.
So this is for the food trucks.
Yeah.
So it's going to be the 250th.
Really win.
And folks might remember when we passed the food truck ordinance, that anytime there's any more than two shall be gathered, that it requires the select board approval. So Thanks to both the 250th Committee and a bunch of town staff and community volunteers, we have been able to recruit a number of food trucks, more than I thought would even be possible. We're recognizing that providing lots of food is part of a public safety aspect to the program, that we don't want people rushing for the buses as soon as the parade is over. It would be great if they could stay around to be able to support the local businesses and actually stick around for the drone show later that day. So we've got two main places where the food trucks are going to be centered. One is in the Walden Street lot, which is behind Walden Street. And because there's a few more than we've got space for, some additional ones will be on Stowe Street. So some of those trucks will stay there through the whole day. Some will trade out around 3 o'clock or so. We've got got two shifts, which are going to be a little challenging for the food trucks, just because they're used to being able to zoom in, serve, and leave. But we want to make sure that they're in place before the hard closures and the parade starts, and that they don't interrupt any of the activities. Then we've also been working with a number of the food businesses to be able to participate, both our brick and mortar ones. So folks probably know that through funding from ARPA, we've been able to make small grants to the brick and mortar businesses to do mobile food vending, and a number of them have taken us up on it, including Camilla's and the Cheese Shop and Sally Ann's, and it's about 8 of them all together. So they'll be participating. So if there's any questions, I can answer them.
So, Mimi, you said we have to approve the food trucks because it's more than 2, right? Do we have to approve the outdoor vending for the establishment? Okay.
No.
So this is just courtesy
Yeah,
information.
just so you kind
Okay.
of see the context of where everything's
Yep.
going to be, and that
Okay.
they weren't forgotten.
So Mimi, this is a fantastic list of food trucks and a great variety, and I hope that they'll come back for other events. My only question was, are we going to have a list of where all the food trucks are going to be so that people know? And I don't know how we're going to do that, if it's at the visitor center or...
So we wanted to get this approved kind of in
Yeah.
a timely way.
Yeah.
There are a couple additional steps. We want to make sure that all of them pass the health
Yeah.
department to ensure that they are complying with food safety regulations. And then it's a little bit of a game of Tetris to identify exactly how big of their truck is going to be. So that there'll be a little bit of a dance. But right now we've got a food map that will show where a lot of the mobile vending is and where kind of those clusters are going to be. And folks probably know, like, there's always last minute things that are going to come in, but as much as possible, we'll make the map detailed to where things are.
Yeah, no, that's great. We just have so many people. So well know. That's great. Thank you. Appreciate it. It's exciting.
Mimi, I know how much work this was and how difficult it was. A few months ago, it didn't look like we were going to have any food trucks. It was real chaotic. So really appreciate everybody that worked on it, you and Shannon, Melanie. I don't even know who all the people are, but
Marty from Recreation did a
Yeah.
huge lift.
yeah, I know it was exasperating for some people and a lot of work. So thank you so much.
Yeah, it looks great. So thank you. My question is only about the morning, 7 a.m., the evening, 9 p.m. probably seems easier. It's like the 3 p.m. cutover. How do we get in the trucks in and out? And is it like, okay, the morning shift is done at 3, the person's got to come into the same spot at 3, and it's like one person's not yet packed up to leave, the other person's waiting to get in? Like, how's that
It's going to be a
transition
little,
going to work?
there's so many factors. I mean, some of the food trucks are going to have lots of things on board to be able to serve kind of as many as, really the issue will be on how fast they can serve the people, where other folks are probably going to be totally sold out and just twiddling their thumbs waiting to leave once the roads are reopened. Melanie's been working really closely with the public safety folks to coordinate how they're going to be moving in and out of the spaces. So you're right, it's going to be a little bit of a dance to have that move around and not impact the people that are going to be in the space, and just coordinating that. But once we get, I think I shared with you the specific map where they're going to be. So that's part of the factors going into it.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah, first time I could ever remember getting hungry reading a select board. But, so, With that said, I move to approve the Concord 250th food truck requests.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Good, very good, thank you. Okay.
This is quite a list.
Decaf,
Yeah,
It is.
really
It
good
really
list.
is. Great. So don't sit down.
I know.
So Anne from the West Concord Cultural District was hoping to come, and she's not quite here. She was doing childcare. And we didn't think we were on the agenda till. a
That's
little
fine.
later, so if we could wait.
We'll keep going
We'll
and come
circle
back to
back
that.
then.
Yep, that'd be great. Megan, do you want to do the bicycle, the
Yes,
intermunicipal agreement for the bike program?
absolutely. Thank you. So you have in your packet a memo and a intermunicipal agreement for your consideration. The request this evening is to request the select board to authorize the signature of the town manager to sign this Minuteman Bike Share intermunicipal agreement. This intermunicipal agreement has been reviewed by town council. We also share town council with some of the other communities that are involved in this intermunicipal agreement, so they've been engaged and involved throughout this process. This is, I think, a very good news story. It is an agreement between Acton, Concord, Lincoln, and Maynard for the implementation of a 4-town regional bike share program for the next 3 years. This program was made possible by a state grant. It was I believe it was called a Shared Street Grant through Mass DOT. And the grant is $187,450. The lead community is the town of Acton, so they managed and oversaw the procurement of the vendor and the drafting of this intermunicipal agreement. We've had a bike share program in the past. Some years we've done it on our own. 1 year we partnered with the town of Acton, and we've worked with a few different vendors. And this agreement is with the vendor that actually was the best that we've worked with, which is positive. And through this grant, it gives us 3 years of funding. So it really is enough time for people to know about the program. It's not here 1 year and not here the next year. So we're really excited to be working with these other communities. We're hoping that the bikes can go in before the 250th is the plan. And I also want to mention that our community does have an amenity that the others don't, because we purchased a few years ago 2 adaptive bicycles. And those are, kind of an amenity for Concord that sets us apart. And I think it kind of speaks to our efforts to include a inclusive visitor experience. Happy to answer any questions.
So Megan, this is an exciting program. I know the Transportation Committee would be really happy. I was trying to figure out, what does the vendor do for this? Yeah, it's a lot of money, $187,000. And what I figured out was, maybe I did it wrong, but it was about $1,000 a year per bicycle. And it just seemed really expensive. So I'm trying to figure out, what do they do?
Sure. I can't speak to all the elements here, but I can tell you that they own the bicycles. They deliver them here. They set up the stations across the 4 communities. They also provide service for the renting of the bicycles. So there's an online platform. There's customer service if folks have an issue, using the app or booking the bicycle. They also have maintenance staff available if there's a problem with unlocking it, or if there's a problem with the bicycle, which happens when there's turnover. So they're on call and available to make adjustments. This program involves you can ride a bicycle from here to West Concord, or you can go to a different town and leave that bike there. So from time to time, there does need to be a recalibration if all the bikes end up in Concord because everyone's coming here. Then sometimes we're going to have a van, which is handled by the vendor, to move the bikes around so that they can be at all the different stations.
Yeah, we have the map on the screen. It's pretty wide. I mean, it's all the way down to Lexington Center, up to Acton and out to Maynard. So it's very large. So, and is it all are any of them e-bikes, or is it just pedal bicycles?
Just pedal.
So if someone, has a derailment or flat tire or whatever, then there's a customer service on call, and they come and do they meet you at where you're broken down, or what happens?
I don't know the detail of what would happen if there is a issue in between stations.
Yeah, it just seems so expensive, but maybe with the customer service is why. It seems like a very good program.
So my question is, it's $187,450 for 3 years for 4 communities, right?
Right.
So let's say this is a big success. By that, I mean people use it, we love it, and we can't give it up when the grant expires. So what are we committing down the road for an expense to Concord if we end up having to fund this ourselves?
Well, I think that's a good question, and I think that we have funded this program through a few different ways over the past years, and I think some years it wasn't funded. But I believe there had been donations in the past from the Rotary Club, or there had been some ability to fund it within the operating budget in the past. But we're also look for other additional grant funding to continue this type of program. But I think sometimes these programs come for a few years, and if there is additional funding or grant opportunities, it could continue. But this is, I guess what I'm trying to say is this has evolved a lot. Like sometimes it's just been Concord, sometimes it's been Concord. I think there was one year it was Concord and Lexington together. There was one year it was Concord and Acton, and I think the communities are happy right now that there is a plan for the next 3 years. And, I think we'll continue to seek additional funding through grant or otherwise in the future.
Yeah, I just want to make us aware that
Yeah,
we're setting an expectation.
So the vendor that provides the services is also, so when somebody pays to rent the bike, does that offset any of the costs, or is this essentially subsidizing their cost basis for?
So there's a clause in here, I was going to ask the same
Yeah,
thing, Mark.
it's-
It's a great
that's where
question.
I'm
There's a
going
clause in here that says revenue sharing.
Sharing.
The towns agree that any returns from ridership fees shall be divided between the towns on a proportional basis.
But
So
it doesn't say when that is, if it's
I don't
beyond the
know exactly what that
187,000.
means. Like,
Yeah.
if that's sort of the gross revenue or some net, it's a little unclear.
Right.
little.
Megan,
Like
could you-
returns from
Megan,
ridership
could you
fees?
find out? That is something we should know.
When does the revenue kick in, if at all?
And is it gross or net?
Yeah, is it gross
Is
or
it- yeah, it's
after
gross or net.
expenses, or it's a little ambiguous.
Because it's possible that if the fees are, some amount of money, that it might fund us for the
Correct.
4th year or something like that.
So if it's, hey, this is what we're spending, but we
Yep.
expect we'll get some back
Yep.
in revenue,
Does it go to all the towns, or is it just the lead town?
No, it's
It says divided
proportional to
between
the
the towns.
stations.
Between the
It's-
towns, okay.
But it's
I didn't read
based
that.
on the stations, right?
So
So
that's
Concord has 2, the others each have 1.
Yep, in the
Right?
past, we have
Yeah.
received
Oh.
a small amount of funding back
Oh, good.
from these programs.
Okay, good.
Would it be enough or possible to fund a 4th year? I believe that the funds are taken in as local receipts, so I don't think it would be kind of set aside for future
You're right.
investment.
You're
Well,
right.
we can figure that out at that point. That's all right.
Okay.
So we want to wait for that answer?
No,
Do we want to
We just-
authorize the town manager to sign the intermunicipal agreement?
Without that information?
Without-
Well, I'm asking.
I think it would be
Well-
informative, but not, I
Right.
don't
Not a
need
deal,
that.
not a deal.
Correct.
Can we say, just pending her clarification or satisfaction on the revenue sharing and?
Do we have a public comment about this? There's a surprise.
Sven Weber, 50 Belknap, has nothing to do with public works or anything else. Just in my day business, and believe it or not, I have a day business. I have some insights into these business models because I'm invested or was invested in some of these companies. So you should be clear, the business model for these bike share companies is terrible. You have a lot of damage. There is literally no return of invest on this. So you might see some revenue, but you should not have the expectation that will, say, offset any of the costs in a significant way. And the reason to what Terry Ackerman was asking is why it's so expensive is because the damage, the wear and tear and everything is unbelievable. Some of these things is they have to replace a bike every 3 to 4 months.
Wow.
To get this done. So I just
Okay.
want to set the expectation here.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
To be
Okay.
clear, though,
So,
this proposal is grant funded, so
Right.
we're not.
yeah, but there's going to be no revenue sharing.
Right.
Is what we're hearing,
Well,
Like-
minimal.
likely.
Any other comments? Anyone online? No.
The only other question I had about the way it works, and I don't know if Sven knows or Megan does, but, other bike sharing programs, people just leave bikes randomly on the street. Like, does this bike have to get back to the station for revenue, so that, like, Fred,
Yes.
is there an incentive for them to get it back? Okay.
I think that while the dockless model
Yeah.
was very popular in
Yeah.
past years, it was never appropriate for this community,
Yeah.
or really, we considered it when I worked in Lexington as well, and the interest was to have a docked center for these bicycles for
Yeah.
residents and visitors to use and return to their appropriate location.
Right, so it's incentivized for them to be returned. Okay, good, great, thanks.
Great.
Okay, move to authorize the town manager to enter into an intermunicipal agreement with other communities for the Minuteman Regional Bike Share Program and take all other actions reasonably necessary in connection therewith.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Very good. Actually, is Sue here?
I think so.
Oh, Ann, I'm sorry.
Good.
Hi.
So the decals project is spearheaded by the West Concord Junction Cultural District and Ann Mock. So do you want to talk a little bit about the project?
Sure. So we have over 100 artists and over, I think, almost 175 artists submitted work who live, work, or attend school in the community. And this project is comprised of decals, which are essentially just a very sturdy sticker that will go on the sidewalk around downtown West Concord. And it will feature art made by people in our community. And so any sort of photographable art was acceptable. And we have over 20 mediums represented, so everything from like block printing to ceramics. So it's very exciting. And we have everyone from 5 years old and up who has their work represented. So it's a really nice, hopefully, representation of our community. And the creativity, some 6-year-olds too, the creativity that we have in our community and an opportunity to showcase that and also put something exciting and aesthetically engaging in a place where normally people don't really think about, walking, or if they're looking down, it's at their phones and not at the art on the sidewalk. So
I think it's important to note that the decals are rated specifically for being put on pavement. And we did a test last
Right.
year and showed that it stayed on, nobody tripped, it didn't peel, it didn't fade, and that was easy to peel off afterwards. And Anne has done an amazing job of connecting with all the nearby business owners, got lots of letters of support, which you maybe remember from before, which has been really helpful, and that you are all amenable to have these decals in front of them. In terms of maintenance, the plan is if one becomes a problem, we'll just peel it up and say goodbye to that one. You'll notice in the revised version that there's 6 extra decals, and that has to do with a design change. Originally, the idea was to have a common border around all of them, and the decision was that we wanted the artwork to just kind of stand on its own, and that we'll add 6 extra decals kind of interspersed that'll have a QR code so people can find out more about the individual artists. We have information about the sponsor that we're required to do. And so where these will be is basically from the intersection with Main Street down Commonwealth Avenue and basically to Neshoba, kind of, it's called the art loop, because you're meant to like walk down and come back around.
Yeah.
And because the border has been eliminated, the decals are slightly smaller. I think the original measurements were 2 inches wider than what they'll be now, so.
Yeah, Ann did do a little mock-up just to make sure it wasn't kind of overwhelming, and we got the papers of the exact same size and laid them all out and got a sense, and everybody got a chance to kind of really look at them and decide, oh, this isn't overwhelming, it's just kind of a nice flow that it encourages you to move along.
So they come up in October. Do I understand that right? Okay.
And when are they going to be put down?
Hopefully in early April, weather
Yeah.
permitting.
Yeah.
So they have to be, the sidewalk has to be lightly power washed beforehand, so there won't be any grit in between, to make sure they adhere properly, and then that has to dry. So we can't have rain or
gosh.
snow, but yeah, we'll definitely at some point in April, preferably earlier.
Yeah, and Billy Crosby has been commissioned to do that installation.
Great.
Well, it's absolutely phenomenal.
Really?
Can I just say, looking at the pictures, it's just so beautiful, and it's going to be phenomenal in West Concord. It's going to be great. You're going to have people just hanging on the sidewalks. It's going to be great. I just had one question, and that was, are we going to have something in Concord Center, sort of promoting it so people can
Yes.
actually travel over to West Concord? Like a wayfinding or,
Well, these
Maybe.
will be down for a long while, so
Yep,
there is
yep.
Spring into West Concord
Yep.
coming up that will be there for that, and there'll be the fall event, so
Yeah.
there'll be lots, and I know that there's a group in West Concord right now sort of looking at how can they get the 250th Energy
Yeah.
Right.
not
Yep.
on April 19th,
Yep.
so we might be able to do a tie-in with that.
I'm just thinking just general
Great.
tourist stuff, be great.
Yeah.
But it's really exciting. Thank you for all the work. It's great.
Living Concord has also been great about promoting the call for art and everything, so I imagine that they will also maybe.
That's Polly. That's Polly. Yeah,
It's great.
really, really,
Looks good.
really good.
Okay.
Very good.
So I think we actually need
A motion.
vote.
We do. We do.
Move to approve the West Concord decal program.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Very good. And thank you to the
Thank you.
council as well.
These
You
thumbnails look.
You, Mimi, and the rest of the council, too.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Ann did all the hard work.
Okay, Ann, thank you.
It's phenomenal. It's great.
Very good. Next is the
Concord
250s. 250. Rob,
Transportation update.
we have something in our packet, in the blue folder for that.
Nothing new?
This one? that you
Yep.
walked on? Yeah, I actually got accepted. I know, I'm so excited. Yeah.
I'm like, are those photos or were they?
They're photos.
That's what I thought.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Evening, everybody.
Evening.
Rob Monroe, co-chair Concord 250. I've asked Captain Goldman to be here as well. We've worked really closely with public safety to make sure, A, we have the transportation assets we need, and B, we have a way to get them in and out and to and fro in a way that is efficient and ultimately safe. In lieu of providing a written update, I did want to point our collective attention to the town's website, where under the stewardship of Polly and Laurie and Donna, we've collated all of our transportation information in one place. And so we have a number of tabs there, from transportation, how we navigate the day with maps, spectator guidelines, what to do if you're a resident, what to do if you're a local business. All of that is there and will continue to be updated as more information becomes available. What I want to do is talk a little bit about transportation at a high level, but also give you a little bit of the nitty-gritty in terms of assets, budget, stuff like that. So from a in-town only perspective, we will have access to 25 buses from the school district. We have access to 3 vans from the Council on Aging. We will also have access to 6 vans from Minuteman Arc, 12 golf carts from the vendor that Nashada Country Club uses, and I believe that is it. So we will have plenty of different modes of transportation on that day. The buses will be used to get visitors from the parking lots that we have throughout town to downtown, either to Concord Museum or the Liberty Street at the park. The golf carts are going to be used both in the parade, but also to get dignitaries and other folks from shorter distances in and around town. We will have the Council on Aging vans that will be helpful for our friends at the Council on Aging, and also for folks who have mobility considerations as well. And then the Minuteman ARC vans and some of the Council on Aging vans will be used to help residents get to and from around their homes downtown. We have allocated 13 parking lots in and around town that will be for residents only. And so one thing we're working on right now with Polly and others is figuring out how do we communicate that so that residents get it, but that everyone else doesn't. Because we want to make sure that the visitors coming into town use the parking lots we've established for the visitors, and that residents have ample opportunity to get to a parking lot proximate to their house and get into town there as well. We have allocated or budgeted around $35,000 for just the in-town transportation. We were fortunate to receive a couple of gifts. One $50,000 gift that was going to be earmarked mostly for transportation, so we've been using that. So we do have the funds to support this, which is very important.
Yep.
All of this transportation will occur on Saturday, April 19th. We also will do a parking ban starting Friday.
Friday at 10 o'clock.
Friday, 10
Until
o'clock.
Saturday at 10 o'clock.
Yep, 24-hour
Throughout town.
parking ban as well. And then the other thing, and is it possible to scroll down a little bit on this page, please? I don't know who's running that. Perfect, it's right there. I would be remiss if I didn't mention our excellent partnership with the MBTA. They have created a special events calendar for us, and if you click on that link, it will show the page and all of the times that are coming inbound and going outbound. We are heavily encouraging people to use public transportation if they're coming to visit. And this is new to me, the commuter rails will have the ability for folks to bring bikes. Initially, they said no.
Oh,
Yeah, they did, I know.
But
Yay.
they have published that they are going to be accessible for bikes, which is going to be really great.
Oh, it's wonderful.
We are also working closely with a number of volunteers here in town to install bike racks in town. We are still working on those details. Pan Mass Challenge has donated 400, the ability 400 bike racks for use in Concord and in Lexington. We get 200. Lexington gets 200. And we are asking the parking areas, wherever they're going to be in touch directly with Pan Mass Challenge to work on an agreement there so that town staff's already very, busy. And so this allows them to work directly with Pan Mass and set up that infrastructure there. So that's in Concord, right? We also have a regional plan through our intermunicipal agreement. We have just today finally fully executed the contract with First Student, which will open up 20 buses from First Student to work 2 routes. The first route is from Concord to the different 2 different stops at the park and then to Lexington, and they will rinse and repeat that loop starting at, I believe, 6 a.m. on Saturday and going till about 9 p.m. Saturday night. The second route, Route B, is going to get people from Arlington to Lexington and back that day as well. And we've allocated around 5 to 7 buses for the Arlington-Lexington route. The remainder will be here for Concord, Minuteman, and Lexington. And that quote came in around $32,000, which was well below our budget there. So we're feeling good about that. Yeah. I think that's it.
That's a lot. So
Yeah.
what time do the buses start on April 19th?
The buses begin at 6 a.m., I believe.
Okay, for
Yeah.
the dawn salute.
Yeah, so it's
That's
likely if you want to get to the Dawn Salute, you're going to want to get there. The buses won't really be operational before that.
Yeah.
So you may have to find your way there. But the Dawn Salute usually brings in a much smaller crowd. And so we're anticipating,
Guess it's going to be that way this year too, right?
oh yeah, probably.
So Rob, what are the 2 stops in Concord? I think one was the museum.
Concord Museum and then the
The park.
Yeah,
where?
the visitor center at Liberty Street, thank you.
At Liberty Street.
Yes.
Okay. And on that, oops, if we can have the
It's not there anymore.
scroll again.
I do not, yeah.
I don't know who was doing that. Oh. If we could have the,
I think it was Andrea. She's coming. It's
okay,
coming.
sorry. Liberty Street. Okay, so if someone clicked on satellite parking lots,
It's
those,
not a clickable link.
oh, okay,
It's just, yeah, that's just a list, yeah.
all right. So
And then,
those,
and it will give the 7 different lots there. Yep.
okay, so those are lots for everybody, including people from out of town that are coming?
Those are publicly available.
Okay,
yeah.
and then you said there's 13 lots for in-town.
Yes, for residents. We have not
And-
put that there.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's going to be publicized a different way for
It's going
residents.
to be
only.
publicized a different way. We're still working on how exactly we want to do that, but yeah.
One of the things that we have on our list is through the schools, will be one tool, through the school newsletters,
Mhm.
you know, that will be residents. We have about, we have probably 100 different contacts for local organizations. We have to kind of work through that, which ones are really local, but, we do have a plan to get it out, also with the bridge.
Yeah.
Bridge is good.
That's, yeah.
Rob, why don't you repeat some of that so that the people at home can
Yeah,
hear?
you need to be at
Yeah,
microphone.
Polly, do you want to come up?
I thought I remembered all of that verbatim.
Let
My
Polly
goodness.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Good.
Hi, for the in-town shuttle, we want to make this aware, make Concordians aware of that, but not make it so public that everybody outside of town will start parking there. So there's some different things. The schools will be a great way to get the word out. The 3 elementary schools, the middle school, the high school. Dr. Hunter has her superintendent distribution, so that covers a big group. Council on Aging, we give information to them every month. Donna sends out through news and notices every week. So I think that those will be great resources. We also have a list of a lot of the local organizations like the library, you know, a bunch that are very local, that if we can let them know about this so they know where to go. And the bridge will be a great partner in getting this out.
And someone mentioned inserts in the electric bills.
That was actually something that we had in the last electric bill that gave the URL, the website for Concord 250 and this website, which is the town page. So we use that as a way to get the word out about where to go for information. And if you go to concord250.org, there's a banner right at the top. If you click on that, that goes right to this town page. So we want everything to live just in one place.
Yep.
So when we change it, it changes everywhere. But so the utility bill was used really to get the word out about those 2 websites.
All right.
So tomorrow you're going, I think, to the Council on Aging, right?
Yes.
And will you have the list of parking lots that are exclusive for residents available tomorrow for them?
We'll have that list available.
That would be great. If anything, what I hear from people as far as anxiety about the day, it's transportation.
Yeah.
Same. We
Definitely.
share
You know,
that.
that's what I keep hearing about how are we going to get there and how am I going to get back. So a lot of anxiety, so I'm glad this feels like it's.
And one thing we just published, April 1st is going to be the forum for the town, April 1st, 6 to 7:30 p.m. at the library. And I just started to do some social media posts. I'm getting the word out through news and notices, Concord 250, Living Concord. I just sent something to Dakota for the bridge. We have that on the bridge calendar. So April 1st, we'll have a panel of a lot of the 250 teams there to answer questions. And
Great.
that's going to be a great opportunity. And that will also be recorded through Minuteman.
Great.
Great.
Okay.
Okay. We have a question. Oh, it looks like maybe Diane took her hand down, so maybe that answered her question.
I did take my hand down. I just wanted to remind people about the April 1st, and Holly did that beautifully.
Did it.
Okay, thank you, Diane.
Any other questions?
No, it's great.
You guys are on it.
You guys are good.
Yeah,
We'll be back in a week.
Thank you.
Yeah, you'll be back in a week for the public safety. right?
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you
Very
so
good.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
Wow, we're ahead of schedule.
We're ahead of schedule.
Shannon, you ready to? Good. Thank you. Thank you, Rob.
All right. Hello again.
Hi, Shannon.
So I have a memo in your packet. This is for amending the select board's alcohol rules and regulations. This is working towards select board goal, effective and transparent governance, improving select board processes. So there are two different versions in here. One is the current version, and the second is the proposed revised version. I worked on that with Chris Carmody and Tim Landers from PD, and then it was also reviewed by town council, who had a lot of suggested changes that are consistent with what he sees in other communities that he works with. So really, I think that's summarized in the memo. If you have any specific questions, I'm happy to speak to it.
Well,
So you have options here for hours
Yeah, I was
of
gonna say-
service.
Yeah,
right?
that's the one thing that
Yeah.
I wanted you to
Yeah.
weigh in on. That's something that you have typically voted on per business when they come in with a new license application. So Mina said this is something that he typically sees to have it consistent, but I wanted your opinion
So-
on that.
Very good.
Sorry, what are we proposing versus what is it today?
So this is, if you have the
Section
packet, I'm
4.
on page
It's on
95.
Yeah.
Section 4.
Yeah, so this is for hours of service. I have two options in here. Option 2 is sort of business as usual, which is the select board is voting on the hours of service when the business comes in with a new application. And option 1, which is what Mina said that he sees in other communities, is standard hours of operations, which he proposed as 11 a.m. to 12 a.m. I think we only have one business that is open until 12 a.m., and that's only a couple of days a week, and that's Bandoleros.
What do other people think?
So I just had a question. If we went with option 1, right, I was just trying to understand the differences. So the ABCC still needs to approve. Do they have to approve a change of hours?
Yes.
They do. So that would still have to happen.
Yes, so
if they
it's,
did
it's
this.
an application that still goes in front of the
Right.
select board. And I think if you did have standard hours of operations, the select board always has, the opportunity to weigh in on those if something wasn't
Right.
working with the
Right.
business.
Right. So that would still happen. And then,
Okay, now I'm confused. So what's the difference between the two then if we weigh in?
Right.
So it's either you're weighing in from the start,
right.
Which is
And it-
option 2?
yes.
Or we're waiting.
you have standard hours, but let's say a business is getting a little rowdy and they receive a few complaints about the hours, the select board would be able to sit down with the business and say, maybe we need to rethink this.
But we
Maybe
could
it
do
needs
that
to
with-
be 11 p.m.
But we could do that with option
Yep, you
2 as
could.
well.
Yep.
That's always a callback if
Yep.
you're hearing complaints. Got it. Okay.
So there's a two-step process for like a restaurant. One is the hours of service that they're allowed absent the alcohol program, and the second one is when are they allowed to serve
Yeah,
alcohol?
that's right.
that-
But this is just written right on the liquor license itself. But that is right. Like, Main Street Markets opens before 11 a.m., but they have a liquor license. But, hours of service for that likely begin at 11 a.m.
For the liquor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Shannon, is one of these options less work for staff, or is it the same amount of work?
I don't think so.
I mean, they still have to come before us to get the
Right.
license. And it's
Correct.
more, do you want to set the standard to be these open hours, or do you want to make it business specific?
I'd rather go with option 2 myself, to make it specific to the neighborhood.
That's actually listed as option 1.
That's what we already have.
Oh,
Well,
you're right,
it's
thank you.
two-
In ours, but,
It's,
yeah, option 1 outlines Monday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 12 a.m.
Right.
Midnight, and
Oh, no,
holiday
option
hours.
2 is.
2 is what-
Individual
Two.
basis.
Both
Yeah.
hours on an individual
So
basis.
that's what I'm saying I
Yeah.
would rather
You
do.
would prefer the.
Yeah. That's what I would
So-
prefer that.
I like
Mark,
the,
did you wanna say?
well, I was just going to say that I like the idea of putting on the application what the expectation are for hours of service for the community. And then if the applicant wants to somehow request that be modified, then they kind of know what the baseline is, rather than have everybody try to figure out something and then we have to try and figure out how it differs from our standards.
So you could
Well, I think they'll have that.
You could put a line in there that says suggested or standard hours of operation. I would say right now are really 11 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my recollection too.
And what do other people
So
think?
you mean, Mark, you're saying in the application, just have sort of allowable hours and they could modify it in the
yeah.
application?
They could
As needed?
they could request a variance from that, but, say standard hours of service in the town of Concord are,
And what would they be?
well, I think, I would actually argue for 11 to 11 myself, just,
I'd be okay with that.
11 to 11 is pretty typical with
Standard.
what the businesses have right now.
Yeah,
right.
It
And,
is.
the holiday, obviously, the New Year's Eve
Right.
exception makes sense.
Right.
We have other businesses besides Bandoleros that are open till 11?
Open to 11, I think you do, but I think Bandoleros is the only that has midnight.
I thought most of them closed around 9.
Some of them may, but off the top of my head, I think there are probably, like, West Village Tavern is probably 11.
Okay?
So have we, what do the business owners in town think? I mean, have we talked to them? Is there a problem that they have with where things are at? Are there issues that they're
I
trying to
haven't-
solve for, or?
Yeah, I haven't spoken with business owners on this, but really, my goal with updating these were that they were just generally out of date, and there were a couple of other amendments that had to be made that came out of changes during COVID, like changes with outdoor dining were also updated in here. So I have not received feedback from businesses that pushed me to making changes to this, but I think I was just trying to bring them more up to date in general with how things were operating.
yes. This is cleaning up a policy that has kind of evolved into a little frayed, and we're just trying to get it all down. So it wasn't in response to,
Yeah, and the
Community
prior
request.
version is also in the packet for anybody that wants
And
to see.
then I just wanted to see if there's really a duplicate in here. Can you go to section 4D, 3? Like, I think 2 and 3 are duplicates. If you go to D,
Yeah.
scroll down, 2 and 3, I think those are duplicates. I think. So maybe you only need one of them.
Yeah,
Focus.
You're right, it is.
I see
It
where you're
is.
showing.
Yeah,
Yep.
it is. Good cat.
It's good. I learned something new about our process. Uh-oh, that's my phone, sorry.
So let's come to some kind of an agreement about what we want to do with section 4A.
I don't feel strongly about it one way or the other.
I don't either.
Yeah. I would be okay if we went with option 1, if we made it 11 to 11.
And I'm working on the assumption that whatever alcohol licenses are in place now and whatever hours they say is what stays in place until a new, so this applies to new applications. so-
Right.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
What do people think about that?
I'm okay with that.
So I guess are we trying to decide this tonight?
We want to
No.
adopt it, right?
I'd like to. Do you want,
Well,
is there something?
I just, again, I feel like we haven't even asked anybody who owns a business in the town what they think about, I mean, so the policy hasn't been updated in 16 years. And
We've been issuing liquor licenses.
yeah, I understand. I'm just
Yep.
saying the policy hasn't been updated in 16 years, and now we want to update the policy on the first night that anybody's discussing it. I guess I would be more comfortable making sure personally, I'd like to understand, absorb it a little bit, maybe talk to some of the business owners in town to see if
You want to
there's,
do that?
see if there's anything that's,
So right now, but just to be clear, everyone's already applied, and those, they still apply. I mean, it still works for them.
Right. This is new licenses.
This is new coming forward, so it's just trying to help convey a standard that's acceptable to the town, and then each business can still, they don't have to accept these hours, they can still apply and say, but I'm going to close at 10 o'clock, right? That still
and
can
really
happen.
This policy is, a tool of enforcement for the
Right.
select board as the local licensing authority.
Yep.
So these should, most importantly, also work for you.
Yep, yep.
And outside of the language changes, this is mostly a restatement and a clarification of things that have come up in the past.
We're not hearing any complaints from people as far as the hours that they have now, or
No, because they could also just
come back.
apply
Come
to
back,
change
right,
their
right,
hours
yeah.
if they had any concerns with their hours.
Right.
I think most of them are open less hours than
Right, I think
Yeah, I
11
think
to
you're right.
11
Yeah,
anyway.
you're right. They are.
Right.
Yeah.
So where are we? Do you want to do that? Cameron, do you feel like you have a need to do that before we vote on this, or?
It's just my opinion. The rest of the select board can weigh in. I feel like, again, sort of, we've talked about, I think it's one of our goals, right?
Yeah, present one thing and then vote on it in a
and I
separate
just
meeting,
sort
which,
of-
it's okay.
I mean, maybe it's
That's
not a big
okay.
deal. Maybe it turns into
Okay, then
nothing and it's
let's
all
bring
good.
it
But
back.
I'm confused enough about like the hours that all the restaurants are open versus what they're allowed to be open and what we're changing to just want to say, hey, let's just make sure we get this right.
And I think what Shannon was saying to us before is, this covers the hours that they can serve alcoholic beverages, not the hours of operations. That's in a different license.
And I don't think this would change anyone's
Yeah.
current hours of serving alcohol.
But I do think that there's some value in, going back to the memo that we have, the new sections, the grant of licenses is limited, section 3 on application for licenses, and the section 4 miscellaneous provisions for the outdoor procedures. It makes sense to want to get those in.
Yeah.
I think if we gave direction one way or the other about how we want the hours of service to read, then we could, take a final version, publish it, and then just have it on the agenda briefly at a future meeting. That would give people an opportunity to comment if they see something
Okay,
and want to know about it.
great. So that's what we'll do. We'll put it on a future
So
agenda.
do we have a consensus about the hours of the hours of service language that we would prefer to see?
I proposed 11 to 11.
I personally prefer the idea of outlining an expectation and having it be open to the applicant
Yep.
to ask for something different.
Right.
Okay.
If that's what they
Okay,
think.
let's
that
do
So
that.
you're saying
needs of their
option one,
business
which would be
is-
Monday to Saturday inclusive of 11 to 11.
11 to 11 with the
Okay.
exceptions for the holidays as
Great.
noted in the packet.
Great.
And then if an applicant really wants something different, then they could specify on their
That's right.
application that they wanted something different, and we would.
Right. So we would want to add that
Right, we just,
the
I
language.
mean,
that
I
just
think
has to be
the-
clear
the
that they
other
can do
thing
that, right?
That really does, going back to another one of our goals, which is make us a little bit easier to deal with. If an applicant finds those hours that we've already said acceptable, and they check the box that says, I want the standard service hours,
Yep.
then we're not going to turn around and say no to that
Right.
when they come forward, as opposed to if they have to make up their own hours, then we have to look through it and try and figure out how it matches or doesn't match.
Okay, so I think we have agreement on one change. We're going to go with option A from 11 to 11. We're going to give ourselves some time to do a little bit of research. I want to thank you, Shannon, for starting this, as far as, cleaning this up so that we've got something clear in front of us when we've got people applying. It helps them, it helps us. We have a public comment.
Sven Weber, 50 Belknap, again speaking as a citizen. When I moved here to Massachusetts, I struggled a little bit with these some strange alcohol rules around restaurants, and one thing is in here, which is the brown bagging rule. So I'm more used to in California, you can bring your own very valuable bottle of wine to the restaurant, pay a corkage fee, so the restaurant is still able to make money, but you get a better wine than you might get in the restaurant. Specifically here, I'm not getting the wine I like. So if you're reconsidering, if you're looking at that, I don't know what the rules here in Massachusetts around brown bagging are.
It's in this rule.
Yeah, so
it's defined as not allowed.
yeah, but that's
Right.
one thing. It's like
Right, yeah,
this
that's
is
what he's
up to
yeah.
you to think about. If it's not required by Massachusetts law to look at that, that might be something to think about. Again, I do not want to take business away from restaurants. They should be allowed to charge a corkage fee or whatever, but it gives consumer more flexibility. That's my comment.
Okay. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you.
All right.
Okay. Mark, I think you're next.
Yeah, that brings me to, so, I forget whether it was the last meeting or the one before, we had talked a bit about the Personnel Board charge, and the Personnel Board was here with an update, and we have the Chair of the Personnel Board with us tonight, Bill Narachek, and what I tried to do here was incorporate some of the output from our discussion as to what we would want to have the Personnel Board consider accepting into their charge, recognizing that the Personnel Board is a chartered board. It's in the town charter, so we didn't create it. That's why their charge looks somewhat different. And they have an important function looking after a key stakeholder in our community, which is our employees, and with a special responsibility for those employees that are not covered by collective bargaining agreements. And so they're also, I believe, a representative of us as citizens in terms of trying to instantiate what we want to be as an employer. And so what I proposed here, and I know we had a little bit of feedback, I sent it out for your feedback, and I'd be interested to hear what everybody has, is some additions to the charges presented a couple of meetings ago by the Personnel Board that reflect what I thought we were looking for, which is that to support the role of the Personnel Board in providing strategic advice to the town manager and the select board in the area of personnel management, engaging in setting and goal tracking for personnel management, and that we benefit when they do that. And it seemed to me that the three things that we were quite interested in seeing them work on, and I apologize for the typo that appears here, the status of retention and recruiting.
Okay, it is,
Yeah.
yeah.
It should be and recruiting and tracking and of satisfaction and morale.
Yeah.
So for some reason, Word wanted to use the word in more than I did. And progress on initiatives, meaning projects that are going on in the area of workforce administration, management, and training. So the Personnel Board met earlier this week. I showed them these proposed additions to the charge and told them that we'd be discussing them here tonight, and they're awaiting our feedback.
Well, I think this reflects what we discussed in our last meeting, so I thought it was good. I had two things that I just want to comment on. Under the governing documents, you're specifically calling out the 2024 Personnel Board charge and the employee handbook.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to put a date in it, but
Yeah.
assuming the employee handbook's going to get updated every year, you don't want to update this every year, I'm assuming. And I don't even know if we...
That does make some sense.
Yeah, so just drop those. And then the red line that was in here, because there were two copies of this.
Yeah,
I think
this-
one was
yeah.
your first one, but these additional red line edits, were they
Oh, those were,
from,
Yeah.
Were they yours? Okay. No, I thought they were
I don't
good.
know if you scroll down.
Yeah, I thought they were good too.
Yeah, I was
No, I thought they were fine.
confused about what,
Yeah.
what,
Just
So
what's
it's the
what.
second one?
It's the second
So if
one.
you go down to the second one.
Yeah, there's some, more right here.
Right.
Yeah, like
so
ineffective.
so
Yeah.
just no, sorry, it was
No, it's not. It was
No.
just there a second.
it was just there, but if you go down another
Yeah, right there.
that one.
That one, yep.
So yeah, so just
Yep.
to maybe my thought was because based on the conversation that we had
Mm-hmm.
was that we really have some great folks on the personnel board who have a lot of experience.
Right.
So I was looking to sort of find ways to tap into that experience and go a little bit beyond sort of, into just, hey, look, what is like an effective performance system look like? And how, are there challenges or recommendations for fixes or improvements or ideas and best practices for improving morale? Just as goals, right?
Yeah,
to
that's good.
tap into that expertise. So that was really my thinking behind that.
Yeah. And just one small point. Where it begins personnel board coordination and reporting, that area down that's in kind of a blue tint is words I added. Everything in black, except for
Yeah.
the very last line, which for some reason turned out black. It was the personnel board's version of their own
Yeah,
charge.
that's what yeah.
Just so this area that Kim's
Yep.
talking about was in their original draft, and
Yep.
So,
I'm supportive of those.
How do you
changes.
track satisfaction and morale?
Survey. I mean, I'm assuming most, I don't know, who's here?
Do you want to tell us how you do that?
Yeah,
We can hear you better.
right. Oops.
Bill Marachek, 64 Rollingwood Lane. It's really a very good question. It's actually one that we've decided to put on to the agenda for our next personnel board meeting. Typically, survey is one way to gather that information. You can also probably source retention and recruitment, termination, statistical data. So at our next personnel board meeting, we're going to actually try to articulate exactly what the criteria would
Okay.
be.
Okay.
But I agree with Wendy that I think that the survey is probably the most, the easiest way. But there's going to be some logistical issues that we'll have to face.
Right, good, thank you.
And I would just add, I agree. I would just add sometimes exit interviews if people.
Oh,
do
yeah,
need-
absolutely.
That's a
Yep.
good
That's
idea.
just
Yeah.
another
You should have them, yeah.
way of
Really good idea.
getting that.
And surveys are tricky too. They have to be the same year over year over year too, so you have to be careful.
Also, on the last section where it says the select board is particularly interested in, I would like to add, I'm interested in seeing how this new classification and compensation system is working and how the new performance evaluation system is working. I'd like the personnel board to take a look and evaluate how things are working. Do they need tweaks? Are they working great? Whatever.
So just on that, I think the second one,
Yeah.
the performance one is definitely one of the initiatives related to workforce administration
Yeah.
that I had in mind, so I was trying to make it general.
Right.
And the class and comp, administration of the class and comp is absolutely core to what the personnel board
Right.
has been working on and is assigned to work
Right.
on. So,
But now that we have a new system,
yeah.
How well is it working? Because we
Yeah.
had a lot of issues, and hopefully it's working well, but we need to find out. So I just thought specifically those two things should be specified
Yeah,
on there.
certainly good goals for this year.
Yeah.
Good. Any other feedback?
No, okay. It's good.
So if you're comfortable, I read through the notes that you had put on, Cam, and I didn't have any problem with any of them. So, I would say, let me clean up a couple of typos and send it back over to the personnel board as our suggestion, and let them come back to us.
Great.
Okay? Thank you.
Looks good.
Very good, thank you, Mark. And thanks to the Personnel Board.
Okay.
Okay, next on our agenda is to review our annual Select Board goals. We've got 2.5 months left, which are going to be pretty full, to complete our goals. So I thought it might be a good idea to take a look at them and see if we can make any progress towards completion at the end of this fiscal year. So you have them in front of you. I've added a few things, and I hope you had time to read, and I hope, first, I guess I'll first open it up to, do people agree with what I've written? Any comments on what I've written or any additions to what I've written?
So I thought it was really good. I had a number of comments.
Go ahead.
Let's see. I guess they're mostly on page 3 and 4.
Okay.
So under cell phone service, it says changes to wireless overlay district. It says we'll issue an RFP for Kais Road.
Yeah.
And it says changes to wireless overlay district. I was just curious what the timetable is on those two things.
Yeah, and I was surprised. I
That's
didn't
not going to be
realize-
this year. That's going to be, this was just really kind of like a reminder that this should be a goal for next
Okay,
year.
so both
Okay.
of those things are future. The
Well,
Kais-
I believe the RFP will be soon. Am I right about that, Megan?
Is-
This is information, go ahead.
Well, I think I can speak to a couple of things that we're doing, under the select board's leadership for advancing this goal. And as you put in here, Mary, the contract was awarded to Wireless Edge for the landfill site, and we are working to negotiate the lease right now. They're doing a phase 1 environmental of the area, and then they'll begin the fairly long road to due diligence at that site to make sure all permitting is in line before they apply for local permitting. And then, of course, the main focus for us is improving coverage in the center. And so some of the efforts that are ongoing right now are, there's a staff working group that's meeting weekly. We're analyzing all of the barriers that exist that kind of block some of the market and investing here. And they're in a few different areas. So there are zoning constraints, there are historical district considerations, there's a review that is required by the Historical Commission. We also have a lot of wetlands in this downtown area, and a lot of the areas that we'd be looking at could be in a floodplain. And so there's a number of impediments to development for the downtown area. And what we're doing as staff is working on analyzing all of them and setting up a multi-pronged approach for which kind of hiccups can we alter or can we present as a way to be adjusted, and which can we work around? Is there a path forward for pre-permitting certain priority sites? That's what we're exploring. I think the Kais Road campus had been explored in the past, and it's still on the list as something to explore in the future, especially as we're looking at what is the future of that campus with the land use matrix. What are we going to be looking at for kind of the future home of that site? It is in transition. It will be in transition, as we have all kind of discussed that the Public Works campus is not fitting on that space right now, and it doesn't have
Right.
the right protection of the investment.
And what about Umbrella?
So that one has, we may do that one again as well, and we're weighing that. Some of the drawbacks to that site is it would only fit one carrier. You couldn't fit a few different ones in there, but there is some promise with that, as one of the vendors had shown interest, and actually I had a call into him today, trying to explore that site and others, right, and trying to understand from the experts in the field, if we're at a real tipping point here. The frustration is real. I'm getting correspondence on a regular basis from folks frustrated, and I think that there's a real willingness to kind of take a step back and say we could explore this one, but are there other ones that we could explore? And there's been some property owners downtown that have been interested, and we've tried to outline all of the steps, and it's cumbersome. So that's where we're trying to take a little bit more of a proactive approach to say, is there some pre-permitting and kind of analysis that we can invest in ahead of time to make it easier for folks that would be interested in partnering with a carrier?
Yeah, so on the umbrella piece, because we did that, right? And it didn't really sort of go through. Do we know what needs to change? You know, like, hey, what if we're going to do it again? Like, we know what we would need to change in order to.
Yeah, I do.
that?
I have some information on that. When we did the initial RFP, well, not the initial, there was one a few years ago that that did award the contract to Verizon, but kind of stalled out before final lease negotiations. I think that was 2017. So the most recent one this year, we did have one bidder. It was Verizon, and they did not comply with the terms of the request for proposal. And so I think one of the lessons learned from that was what we're asking for vendors to do in this proposal. And I think we might have talked about this before, is the level of investment and how much can we expect these vendors to tell us about the details of things like the radio frequency at this juncture.
For something that's uncertain.
For something
At the
that's
stage,
uncertain.
right.
So that, I think when we were approaching this last time, it's still the same sentiment of making sure the community and the neighborhood is comfortable with it, infrastructure at this location. But I think that what I would do the second time around is kind of be a little bit more realistic about what is possible at this juncture, what is possible to know at this point. And so there might be some questions that are unanswered at this point. If we were to receive a successful proposal, we might not have all the details that we'd love to have in a perfect world.
But enough to get started, potentially, right?
That would be the difference there.
Should I continue with these comments?
Wait, I got one more about this, though. So you said that a quite lengthy process for permitting at the landfill site? How many months, I mean, when do you think that will actually have the
I
lights
hope to
on?
have more information. We don't have the lease signed yet. So there's a amount of work that needs to be done that is kind of before it gets to our zoning board of appeals. There's some state historic approvals that are required. There's negotiation or kind of discussions with Native American folks. There's a lot of different environmental information that needs to be collected. So I will say that.
Is that peculiar to that site?
No.
So other towns do this all the time?
Yeah, there's a number of things that are pretty standard.
Okay.
I will say one thing that makes this me feel more confident about this vendor that we're working with and this project is that typically the cell phone tower companies wait and line up their sublease agreements before they do a lot of the investment in some of this analysis.
Yep.
But when we did this request for proposals, we also received a proposal from Verizon for this site. And I believe AT&T also, I think it's them, reached out to, they didn't do a proposal, but they reached out to this tower company. So the tower company is feeling good that there's interest from carriers in this site.
Yep.
And so they're not feeling like they have to sequence their investment in getting all these subleases signed before they put in some of the work in the analysis. They're comfortable doing those at the same time. So while it's still going to feel like too long, it is actually moving a little bit quicker than some other projects.
Okay. Terry?
Okay, so where it says, still on page 3, ensure progress on major projects. We have electric, water, and sewer. We don't have wastewater there because it's in a previous section, I
Right,
think.
yeah.
But I was thinking that it kind of belongs here because this is,
Oh, sewer is wastewater.
what, Mark?
Sewer is
You're thinking
wastewater.
stormwater?
Are you thinking stormwater?
Oh, I see what you're saying, because it says sewer. Okay, you're right, never mind. Okay,
We should have put stormwater on there.
We should
Donna.
add stormwater.
yeah, let's add stormwater.
No, it's too late.
I mean, because that's,
Okay. And then in the next section, financial planning and stability.
Yeah,
Another thing that we did that I don't think is listed here was created the tax relief task force.
It's elsewhere.
It
in
is.
here.
It's
Yeah.
elsewhere? I
Yeah.
couldn't
Yeah, it
find
is.
it.
It's actually, it's in the very end, second to last bullet, under diversity, well, it's under diversity,
There you go,
equity, and
5.
inclusion,
Read
but,
it somewhere.
yeah.
It's the second to last bullet.
Why
yeah.
is it under DEI? That's weird.
I don't know.
Okay, well, all right. I thought.
You're right, that's
The-
the wrong place.
Yeah, we did move,
Okay, we'll move that, good.
Okay.
we had it someplace.
And then this last one, the DEI, expand underrepresented voices in town programming committees, ideas.
Yes.
So I have 2 ideas. First of all, as a select board member, I always have felt it's my job, I think all of our job, to be out there recruiting all the time, because we always have vacancies. And then we have a DEI committee. Let's ask them to help us recruit. They know a lot of people that we may not know. So I think they could help us recruit folks for committees.
Good idea.
And, you know, I think we can help too by being available to answer questions about
Exactly.
it and just, you know, I don't
That's
know what
our
kind of
job.
forum. It is our job, but
Yep.
not just onesie-twosie, but maybe create some opportunities. I don't know whether it's around town meeting or just something that we can do. People can come ask and,
Right. And then I had 2 questions. On the top of page 3, it says, oh, I see, okay. The West Concord Advisory Committee,
Yep,
that
yep,
whole thing.
Yep.
well,
Following a review in early January, the updated prog.
so
So that needs to be updated.
Yeah, so I was going to
it
wait.
actually was submitted this month. This
Okay.
could be revised. This is my
Great.
comment
Yeah,
from
all right,
last
That's,
time.
okay, so we'll wait
Yeah,
until
this
we
is
get
old.
to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I thought
Okay.
I'd weigh in on this.
And then the last one is a question that you had on financial planning and stability. Update revolving and enterprise fees to reflect value of service.
Right.
What do you have in mind by that?
That was really something that we were hoping I'd get feedback from staff, because this is a staff,
This is about making the intermunicipal fees, like between the enterprise funds and others.
the
It's just
charge
make that
out-
they're equitable.
Right, the charge
the
back.
charge-
the
the
charge
back.
out from the town to
Right.
the enterprise
I don't
fees.
think we've done that. I mean, I've asked
Right,
Carrie about it.
Right.
Right, I think, okay, I got confused by the word value of service.
Yeah.
Maybe it should be the cost of service, or I don't
What's
know.
the term we just used, the charge back?
Yeah, charge
It's
back,
charge
let's
back.
just,
Chargebacks, I
Yeah.
could say chargebacks.
okay, great.
But what I was getting at here, I think, when we originally wrote these, was that I wanted them to be kind of like the market value of those services.
Absolutely, that's
So that's
The
right,
why
rec department, it was, right?
value
When we
instead
did that.
of cost.
that's right.
Yeah.
So,
And it should
in
be
other words, that was a
updated,
conscious,
so whatever the health insurance cost really is, and all of that kind of
right,
stuff.
right.
That actually reminds me of a question that occurred to me when we were looking at the alcohol and beverage. I noticed there was a $200 fee for that and a $100 renewal, and I found myself wondering, based
Yeah.
mostly just on the length of those applications, whether we can actually effectively review one of those for less than $200.
Right.
That's
No, we
right.
can't.
Yeah.
So
and-
we're not allowed to make a profit, but we need to recover our costs.
Yeah, and to have that written in there, so
Yep,
if it's okay to
good.
revisit that, maybe we go out, we could ask that question on background and make a suggestion that if we're not recovering the fee, the cost of processing one of those applications, we change the fee before we see it the next time.
and not just that one, but building permits, all the different fees that we
Yeah.
have, false
One at a time.
alarms.
Yeah, that's
One at a
huge.
time.
That's huge.
Let's
Yeah,
start with
that's
this
huge.
one,
I was
right,
just
yeah.
thinking that we're,
But if
we're
we
about
have
to,
the alcohol,
we have it open at the moment.
That's
and-
right.
Yeah.
And it's worth asking. and
Okay,
It was one of the questions that I came in with, and I just didn't ask it while we were having the
can we take that
discussion.
action item? Actually, Andrea, could you take an action item to ask Andrea to look at that?
Shannon,
Shannon.
Shannon.
You're Andrea.
Yeah, Andrea.
Sorry,
All right.
thank you.
No,
Okay.
that's great. And so
Okay.
then, sorry, Terry, your thing on revolving enterprise, was it also the recreation?
No, I mentioned that as an
Yeah.
example of the getting the cost.
Yeah, I'm
Yes.
talking about all the enterprise funds, and all the revolving funds. Each one of them is charged, let's say, 2% for HR, or 1% for
Those are
finance and.
Chargebacks,
you know,
those are
all of that
chargebacks.
stuff. So what are the fees and why are we, we can't make a profit, that's fine, but let's get our costs back.
That's what,
Okay.
right, that's what the goal was.
No, I got it. That makes sense. It's maybe related to the recreation thing, but the recreation
It
thing
is.
is
It's
also
one
has
of them.
It's a revolving
some other
fund.
tentacles, because that's
Yeah,
a
yeah,
fund
yeah,
that
yeah.
had extra money in it. How's it being
Well, and
utilized?
it needs to pay its full share, its
That's right.
the burden
Right.
of its
All of
actual
them need
cost,
to-
right?
Do we charge out to to that revolving fund?
Yeah.
It's not yeah, well, so
We
that's
do,
what,
okay.
that was the whole big deal, that we looked at the cost that DPW was providing to the rec
Great,
and made the
okay.
rec
Okay, we
pay
do.
for it in there,
Good,
right?
good.
But that was just
Okay,
the rec.
anybody else have?
I did have other things
Go
in
ahead,
here.
go ahead.
So
Are you done?
Actually, we done? Going back to town infrastructure, number
Yep.
3, and you say number 2, things are too complex. We actually, in the warrant article, there's going to be, there's a proposal around joint parking, so that is also part of
Oh, good.
an accomplishment
Okay.
here.
Sorry,
What is
I didn't
joint
hear
parking?
What did you say?
Joint parking is sort of, think about the old paparazzi space where there's multiple businesses in there.
Yep.
When they worked through what allowed parking is, they looked at the use of each, well, they will look at the use of each business and what time they're
Yes.
going to use the
Oh,
parking. And
yes.
they're much more concise on the
That's right.
parking needs.
So a bank and a restaurant might
Right.
be able to have
Okay.
less
So much
collective
more
parking.
effective
Good.
way to
Right.
set parking, so that's.
Okay, that's a
It
good,
wasn't
that's a good
approved,
goal.
it's there.
We'll take credit for that.
Yes. Well, you asked them to, so we pushed it.
Oh, good.
So, we talked about West Concord, I'll update that one.
Okay.
And then the climate action plan, the goal was to look at the progress and start establishing revised recommendations. I would say practically, all we're doing now is we're updating the status of the
Got it.
plan.
You're
We're not
right.
going to be making recommendations, but making a lot of progress on reviewing what's there.
So Wendy, can you rewrite these
All
3
right.
for me and send them? That would be
Yeah,
great, thank you. Anybody else?
Well, I see the question marks next to the Warner's Pond Road map, and
Yep.
so I would just
Yep.
note that April 3rd is the date when
Public
the
hearing.
Warner's Pond Task Force is holding a public forum to really try to explain on an equal level the 3 proposals that are on the table,
Yep,
and ask for community input on the way to making a decision about that. So I'm expecting that the task force will come to us with a recommendation by June, and they've pretty much teed up what those options are for the community,
us or the NRC?
for community input
Oh.
to the public. So the idea is to have a public forum and
Yep.
make sure that the community understands what the 3 options are
Yep.
at, hopefully on a fairly even footing in terms of the costs, the potential benefits, the impacts that are seen, and then really take that feedback into a deliberation that leads to a recommendation of one of those options, or, I suppose conceivably a modification of one of those options.
but
But-
wouldn't it be to the NRC?
Yeah, it'll be a recommendation back to the NRC, but the Warner's Pond Task Force should finish that work
Great,
in this fiscal year.
great. Can you write
Sure.
something up? That would be great. Well, these are our collective goals. Anything else? Cameron, do you have anything you want to?
No, Mark, I just said the Warner's thing. No, I mean, sustainability plans for electric and what, I'm not sure what,
Where are you?
sorry, I'm on
Ensure progress
page
on major projects,
3.
under the infrastructure.
It just says sustainability plans for electric, water, sewer. We talked about maybe
Oh,
adding
okay, yeah, yeah.
stormwater.
Mhm, yeah.
I just, I'm not aware of some big new, push on something there.
That's
The only,
CMLP?
outside of solar on the.
No,
middle
on
school
the
building,
electric
but-
and
Oh,
to me, it's sort of business as usual
yeah.
for,
Well, it says it's progress on projects, so I was thinking of what major projects, so,
Well, the major project is the time of use metering,
right, I know.
because, the
Yes.
supposed
Yes.
benefit of that is to
Yes.
align the
Right.
cost of electricity with the cost, the cost to the consumer with the
Yeah,
with the cost to
right.
the utility,
Yep.
which hopefully also has some sustainability.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if there was some, when it says major I wasn't sure if there was something else.
Well, I think
We
had
never
in
defined
mind.
them, and we probably should have when we set these goals.
Yeah.
It probably
I
would have been
think the
better had we.
stormwater is a
Stormwater.
major project.
And time of
It
use
is.
is actually a very important
Yeah,
project.
Yeah,
time of
so
the
I was
list.
just thinking, like,
Yeah.
if
No,
there
I
is something
think
there,
it's
like, what
good.
are we calling out? So, okay, so the
Right.
stormwater is specific, like, the time of use
Okay.
is another specific thing.
And the MCI wastewater, these are all major projects.
Right.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the MCI wastewater is still going to be very much on the drawing boards
Yep.
through
Yeah.
this year.
Well, that's in your.
And it's probably a good one to think about for next year because we should be in, more direct negotiation over that.
Actually, in the water, there's a lot going on at the Nagog Pond, too. So we actually have a lot going on in all of these.
Yeah, no, it's just,
Yeah.
it's great if we can call them out specifically
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
That'd be good.
I think
That'd be good.
it just
And this-
helps.
Anything else?
CMS Solar should be.
That
I
on
think
this.
this is a really good
That was where I saw it,
exercise.
yeah.
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 I'm really glad we're doing this quarterly. It's a good idea.
Okay, then the only addition I have would be when we're looking at under DEI and talking about expanding underrepresented voices. I don't know if you had a chance to attend the MMA webinar they had recently about how best
Oh,
practices
yeah, well, I
for
was on
boards
it.
and committees.
Yeah, Cameron went there too.
No, I was not
think.
able
Oh, you
to.
didn't go? You
No,
didn't go?
I
Yeah.
wasn't able
The
to.
first part of it, I mean, their webinars are kind of long, but the first part of it was the town of Lincoln,
Yep.
the select board member in Lincoln and a resident in Lincoln had taken it upon themselves to get better representation
They did.
across all demographics on their boards. And one of the great ideas that they had was to go to youth sports events
Yeah.
and hand out pamphlets and network with people, and I thought that that was a great idea.
That's great, yeah.
So a lot of community outreach, and it took them a year, and they said it was
Yeah.
still a work in process.
Right.
But they were getting good results. The point I want to make is that that was an excellent presentation. They're our neighbor, they know,
Yeah.
their demographics are very similar to Concord, and I thought they had some great ideas. So it'd be worth watching that, that video, just for the first 20 minutes or something.
Yeah, it was
They
good to
had-
hear.
They had some great ideas, so we could do.
Yeah,
that.
no, that's great. I'll make sure to, I mean, because I'm also tasked with coming back
Yeah, I mean, maybe
on
we
some of
should.
the APP 10 stuff too.
Yeah.
So
It
making
it
sure
fits
that,
into that, too.
yeah, well, that's what I
Exactly.
mean. Like,
Exactly.
So I
Yeah.
think we were talking about
Yeah,
doing that
take
in
the 20
April.
minutes
Yeah, yeah.
and watch it. It was
Yep.
good.
Yeah.
It was really good.
Yep.
And it was very timely for us. So, great. Okay, so as far as the action items, so you're going to do some things for me, or for us. Wendy, you're going to do things,
Yeah.
and you are too.
Thanks.
You're going
Yeah.
to give us the thing about Warner's Pond. And Cameron, do you want to write something up for the
Yeah, I'll do the
major
specific-
projects?
yeah, the projects, yep.
Flesh that out a little bit?
Yep.
Great, that'd be great. And you ask questions.
Okay.
That's good. I think we're good.
Yeah, and we're
Okay,
still
that's
5
good.
minutes ahead of time.
We're still, okay, let's keep going.
Yeah, I
shall we?
don't think this is something that previous select boards did, to go through quarterly, and I think it's really, really good, because we got a lot of things clarified here.
Good, okay. Jessica, you ready to talk with us about the Personnel Study Task Force?
Yes, good evening. First, I want to apologize. There was a technical difficulty or something. The slides I prepared actually didn't make it into your packets, but they have been subsequently emailed to you, and Andrea can put them up on the screen, so.
Okay.
I think they are in the
They
packet.
are in the packet.
They're not the.
No,
right
they're not the right, they're not the right.
Oh.
Okay, okay.
I would
Let's look
very
up
much
here.
like to present if you're
those
okay, but if
It's
you
fine.
prefer that
I
we
just gotta have my
post-
glasses, that's all.
Okay, all right.
the
Excellent.
screen.
So again, I'm Jessica Porter, the Assistant Town Manager and the HR Director for the town. Also here this evening is Bill Maracek, Chair of the Personnel Board, and I'd also like to introduce our Assistant HR Director, Erin McMorrow, who is here. And I believe I saw a couple of members on the Zoom as well from the Personnel Board, so. So tonight, I'm going to be excited to present a update to the board for a status of the recommendations that came from the Personnel Study Task Force. For those not familiar with the task force, it was established by the Select Board in fall 2021 to review the town's personnel policies and governance. It was tasked with evaluating the personnel bylaw, the role of the personnel board, and related policies to identify areas for improvement and clarification. And Andrea, you can go to that second slide, actually. There we go. Over 20 meetings were held, including interviews with town employees, supervisors, and department heads. They also reviewed best practices from other municipalities, and their final report was issued on September 26th of 2022. Next slide, please. There were 6 key areas of recommendations that came from the task force. The areas were select board, personnel bylaw, personnel policies and procedures, classification and compensation plan, and communications. Next slide. So the select board recommendations centered on the personnel board charge update and reinvigorating the role of the personnel board. The Personnel Board presented a draft charge to the Select Board at their meeting on March 4th, 2025, and you again heard the charge discussed again earlier this evening. Their feedback will be ready now for the Personnel Board to vote and adopt, hopefully at their April meeting, although I have to speak with Bill about that as we're putting our agenda together. In terms of reinvigorating the Personnel Board role, Select Board members Ackerman and Howell have been incredibly supportive of the Personnel Board as liaisons, and the goal is to move towards a model where the Select Board is hearing formal updates from the Personnel Board, perhaps on an annual basis. Next slide. Recommendations for the Personnel Board have been met. We have been lucky to have a solid 5-member board comprised of experienced HR professionals, both from the private sector and the municipal sector. With Liz Cobbs's resignation from the board last month, we are now looking to fill her seat. If anyone here or listening at home is interested in serving, please fill out your green card. The Personnel Board has consistently held regularly scheduled meetings, typically on the second Wednesday of each month. These meetings are held in hybrid format in order to maximize participation. Minutes are all posted on our website, meaning the HR website, and we also have Minuteman Media post the meeting videos to their YouTube site for viewing at a later time. Employees are informed when there's a policy update before going before the board, including the major update to the personnel bylaw that occurred last year. The Personnel Board is always open to hearing employee comments at any meeting, and we have seen an uptick in attendance at our meetings by our employees. Next slide. As for the personnel bylaw, significant updates were made by the Personnel Board and voted by annual town meeting in 2024. The Personnel Board was involved in every step with amendments to this bylaw, and employees were kept informed of all meetings and updates where it was discussed and asked for their input. The bylaw, along with the updated charge, has helped to identify and clarify the roles of the town manager and the Personnel Board. Equity and benefits were reviewed as part of our classification and compensation study conducted by GovHR. When the town moved to a step-based salary method on July 1st, 2025, a consistent methodology was used across the board to ensure equity in determining where staff were placed on the new step chart. Salary discussions for all new hires is handled primarily by HR now to ensure that we are checking against internal equities when placing new hires or reclassifications within the organization. Next slide. We have made several updates to personnel policies, including standby pay, uniforms and safety equipment, town vehicle and licensing, vacation, sick, and bereavement leave, which has actually been an increase in benefits for employees, bringing them more in line with our fellow municipalities, and the sexual harassment and general harassment policy. We're now working on an update to the Family Medical Leave Act policy, the technology policy, hiring policy, and workplace violence policies. All of these have been reviewed and voted by the Personnel Board, and employees were noticed about the meetings and provided copies of the proposed edits in advance for their comments. Lastly, we have a rough draft of the remote work policy, which will be rolled out with the new employee handbook later this year. All of these policies are on our webpage with the dates of update noted. Once a policy is voted and approved, it is typically loaded onto the page within a day or two of the Personnel Board's vote. Next slide. Relative to classification and compensation, anytime a reclass is proposed or a new position created, the board is presented with the original job description, a red line version of the description, and a clean copy of the proposed final version. Classification actions are listed individually on board agendas, and we are also listing any job description updates that do not require a vote, but that are being shared for informational purposes and transparency. Reclassification requests, as well as any newly created position, are rated in HR using our proprietary tool provided to us by GovHR to determine the appropriate pay grade placement. The market is also looked at to ensure that the position has been placed competitively. When a classification change or a new position is presented, we invite the sponsoring department to the meeting to ensure that any and all questions about the role are answered in real time prior to the board's vote. All job descriptions are now currently up to date and have also been reviewed under a DEI lens to ensure that they are free of any gender-specific language or inferences. Next slide. Communications continue to increase and improve. All Personnel Board meeting packets are posted on the Personnel Board webpage, which can be reached from the Human Resources webpage and are accessible to all. Reports are provided each month regarding our staffing changes, and we are hoping to increase our reporting once our transition to the new Munis software is complete. The employee handbook is near completion. We are now working with the Personnel Board to figure out a rollout timeline that takes into consideration all of the proper and necessary reviews, be it legal, the town manager, the employees, and the Personnel Board. This is all expected to happen in the coming months. Employees are provided with the same materials as the Personnel Board when a proposed policy change is on the agenda. They are invited to the meeting in person or via the Zoom link, which is shared, and they are also encouraged to submit feedback ahead of the meeting as well. They will similarly have the opportunity to review and ask questions regarding the employee handbook. We also held employee listening sessions and focus groups last year regarding the fiscal 25 salary and step plan and implementation of the new merit-based pay program. These sessions were very well attended, and employees were encouraged to provide feedback and ask questions, which they did. In terms of restoring trust with employees, much of that starts with communication. My philosophy is that HR is a service department for our employees. They are our customers and needing our assistance. Overall, we are sending out a significant amount of communication to employees. Our benefits manager handles all things wellness related and is often messaging employees with a variety of offerings and information on programming, most of which is free. We have started sending out a flyer with all the month's new hires, complete with photos to welcome new staff. Extensive communications were sent out when we had our health insurance conversion last year. We started communicating less with our generic human resources email box and more with our own individual emails so that people have a name and a direct point of contact within the department. This allows us to be, Lastly, Aaron and I make a concerted effort to visit departments to meet with employees rather than having them come to our offices at 55 Church Street. This allows us to be visible to employees, and we often end up having additional meetings and conversations with other employees, demonstrating that we're an available resource. Once we're able to get our HR generalists more involved with recruitment efforts, they too will be more out in the field with our employees. The Personnel Board will be discussing in the very near future how best to get a read on how employees are feeling today versus prior to the creation of the task force and our progress implementing their recommendations. As mentioned by Select Board Member McKenna earlier, we actually are conducting exit interviews. We have a new form that's been developed, and then hopefully that will evolve into some more detailed reporting that we'll be able to provide to the Personnel Board. Next slide. So in summary, there were a total of 24 recommendations that came out of the task force study report. The majority of these, as you saw from the previous slides, have been accomplished. With the rollout of the employee handbook, which will include a remote work policy, we will have accomplished all that the task force has recommended. Some recommendations are ongoing. Communication is one of those. Increased and consistent communication will help to rebuild trust as well as improve the services and assistance we provide. Reporting and benchmarking is ongoing. We should be regularly looking at comparisons to make sure that we are competitive, fair, and equal. We want to retain the best talent as well as be able to recruit the best talent when a vacancy occurs. Policies and job descriptions should also be looked at on a regular basis so that they don't become obsolete. Last slide, please. In closing, I also wanted just to take a brief moment to highlight some of the other accomplishments of the HR department that are outside of the task force recommendations. First, we have goals for all employees, which roll up to the town manager, whose goals roll up to the select board, and we have a formalized process in place. After my presentation, you'll actually be hearing a little bit more about our tracking system from our CIO. We implemented the driver verification system, which is a program to track driver's licenses to ensure that no one is driving a town-owned vehicle with an expired, suspended, revoked, or otherwise invalid license. This is a free and secure service provided to us by the Massachusetts RMV. Staff has created the Inclusion Chronicles, which is a one-page monthly communication to all employees, which includes inspiring and insightful tidbits related to a variety of cultural and diversity matters that are occurring that month. We repurposed a vacant FTE to create the role of benefits manager, who is tasked with handling all matters pertaining to benefits, from bill reconciliation to enrollments and terminations and everything in between. It also handles employee wellness initiatives, all retiree benefits, which used to be handled by the finance team. This provides better service to our employees and our retirees by having everything centralized in one place. We've been working on updates to the HR webpage to ensure current, accurate, and available information is easily accessible. And we've also included a Google Translate feature on our website as well. Lastly, we've been exploring ways to improve employee benefit offerings. This concludes my presentation for this evening. Bill and I are happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
I'll open it up to the board. Questions? Comments?
A couple. So great presentation. Thank you. And definitely very thorough, and I'm sure it was a lot of work. So I just had two things that struck me as you went through that. One, you mentioned, was it job descriptions that you're doing sort of you kind of said a gender update, or making sure that it's...
Yes, refreshing and reviewing them all. That's actually complete. Staff went through, it was actually our consultant and a staff person went through every single job description we had. Some of them were 10, even 20 years since their last update, and just made them, more gender neutral, tried to remove, certain phrases and inferences like, secretarial duties. Typically people associate secretarial duties with females. So we tried to just make it more just polished. And
that's good. If you haven't done it, I might suggest looking at, I've used some like AI type of things.
Yes.
So you put the job descriptions through them, and they literally will tell you, like, this job is X% towards this type of person. And it will actually suggest, like, literally, like, that word is aggressive. If you want that kind of person, here's what you're going to get. But so it's a suggestion. I've used some of them in the past. I found them to be really effective, because no matter how much you try to write it to be as neutral as possible, there's certain phrases or things that. So it's just a thought if you haven't.
No, we've all been, as a team, looking at ChatGPT.
Yeah. I mean, I did it with some earlier stuff like Textio and stuff like that, but it's just, you can maybe look at that, because it's easy for it to just, not be as, you want it to be neutral, but you also, like, certain jobs, you want, like, hey, there's certain types of things you're looking for, and it can even tell you those kinds of things. And then secondly, on the benefits manager role, just, is there any opportunity to sort of like partner or cooperate with the school committee in some way? I just think of like benefits and how you're looking at the benefits packages, or the administration of it, and just didn't know if there's any sort of collaboration or synergies there.
Yes, so we do collaborate with them. The K through 8 employees for benefits actually are on the town's bills by nature of how we're organized as groups. So there's a lot of collaboration there. They reconcile their enrollments. There's back and forth there. And then we also have our insurance advisory group, which includes members from Concord Public Schools as well as Concord Carlisle Regional High School. So while they're considered a separate group at the high school, the idea is that we all have consistent benefits, because we wouldn't want somebody that's a 5th grade teacher to not have the same benefits or splits or anything like that as somebody at the high school. So there is already collaboration. Down the road, could there potentially be more? Some towns, the HR department on the town side handles all the benefits across the board. That it would probably be a lot for right now, particularly just one person in that role, but that's definitely something that we could be thinking
to keep
through,
looking at where there's
building upon the collaboration
synergies. Great. Awesome. Thank you. Those were my two. So thanks.
So I might make a couple of points. The job description updates were also necessary because of the complete refresh of the class and comp plan, which was done for the first time in about 20 years. And that was a really heavy lift. And so that caused every single job description to be open. So I wouldn't want anybody to walk away with the idea that somehow, the HR department went in just trying to change the wording on job description. It was a necessary effort, and as was mentioned, some of the job descriptions were quite out of date as well. Referring to almost punch cards in IT, maybe not quite that bad, but close. So some of those things. The other thing that was going on simultaneous with all this other work was, as you know, the town switched its health insurance provider from the Minuteman Neshoba Health Group to Maya, and that involved a lot of management of the benefits, and we had an enrollment spike as well. So this work that we're hearing about today represents a major overhaul in the personnel administration because of those changes, but also because it was necessary to happen, and the culmination of that work. And anybody who's run projects knows that you need some additional resource to get that kind of thing done while, keeping things running on time. Another aspect that hasn't been mentioned tonight that I always, right now, the town is usually actively hiring literally dozens of new seasonal employees. And so we have a workforce which expands by about a third every summer.
Recreation, right.
In recreation, in laborers, in the public works departments. So compared to many businesses which might have a relatively stable workforce, turnover is part of the business model because of all of that seasonal effort. And so you need to be staffed to handle that, specifically in the HR area, and have the processes that support that. So a lot of this work has been geared towards that. And while I have the mic, I just really want to say thank you to Bill Marachek, to Kate Ryan, who I see on Zoom tonight, Joe Emmerich, Josh Fay, and of course Liz Cobbs, who recently left the Personnel Board, for the work that they have done to really help provide support for all of this, to provide a lot of valuable counsel. And, I think that we are, through these efforts, really, kind of demonstrating a commitment, which I think is very important for us as a community, for this incredibly important stakeholder group, which is our employees.
I agree. I want to echo what you just said. I thought that was really well said, Mark. I was brand new to the Select Board in September of 2022, and we got the report from the Personal Study Task Force, and I was unaware of the dysfunction in that department. We had a morale problem. We had a lot of turnover, a lot of obsolete job descriptions, unhappy people. And in that brief time, in the 2.5 years, because of the work that the Personnel Board did and the work that you've done and the work that we brought in from external people that had the expertise we needed, look how far we've come.
Yep.
So it's really, thank you. It's amazing. And the other thing, I think we are unique in that we do have a huge recreation wave coming at us for the summer programs, and I'm pretty sure other towns don't have that. So again, you handle that beautifully. So thank you.
I have some similar comments. Jesse, you and your team have really accomplished a lot, because I'm thinking back when I first came on the board almost 6 years ago, and we had no employee handbook. We had no monthly reports of what was going on with employees, how many were hired, how many retired. We had obsolete job descriptions, all of these things that you've accomplished, employee goals, exit interviews, all of these things were lacking, and you guys have put in this whole new classification system with the guidance of the Personnel Board and your whole team. Really, a lot of work. I do have a question. We have been hearing out in the public a lot of questions about the staffing at the Personnel Department. So can you just explain how many people do we have? Like, okay, you yourself, Jess, you're the HR director, or do you count as half? You know, can you just go through the staffing?
Sure, absolutely. So there's myself, I'm assistant town manager and the HR director.
Right, so half is charged to.
Right, so in addition to overseeing the human resources function, I'm also responsible for overseeing all the human services division.
Right.
So recreation, council on aging,
Right.
veteran services, community services. So I'm probably half and half, although I've probably been more 80-20 this last year, even with
Okay.
the help of our outside consultants since I've been here. It's just because of the amount of volume of work we've been pushing through.
Okay.
It's probably been 80-20, but it needs to probably be a little maybe closer to 50-50.
All right.
Erin is a full-time HR assistant director, and we have two HR generalists that are both full-time, and then we have a departmental senior administrative specialist, and then we have the full-time benefits manager as well.
So the administrative specialist, is that like an administrative assistant, support staff?
Yes, but she does a lot more than that. And it's,
And what do the generalists do?
the generals process all payroll change forms. They handle all of the workers' compensation, IODs, onboarding of new hires. And again, it goes back to kind of a lot of our processes are very paper-based and manual. But once we make the shift to Munis, that's hopefully going to free up a lot of their time, and then they'll be able to be out helping a lot more with recruiting. Like Erin's been doing a lot of the recruiting now, but she can't be at every single process. But that is the goal we're working towards, and we've had a really positive response from our department heads and division heads about having HR's assistance with their hiring needs.
Thank you.
And I guess I'll just say one more thing. I know that you've rolled out a whole new compensation evaluation program, and you're sort of in your first year of that evaluation. So I know you're doing a lot of coaching, and you've got a huge milestone coming up to finish all those performance evaluations. So good luck with that. And we'll actually look forward to hearing how that went after the end of the fiscal year, because it's going to be big. And it's a huge step for employee satisfaction as well. So.
Yep.
We wish you well with all that.
And again, the
'cause-
lion's share of that rollout was done by our consultants.
Right.
She's got us all set up this year that now we'll
Right.
be able to hopefully run with it in the subsequent years, now that we're fully
Right.
staffed with bringing Erin on board and
Yep.
the other changes that
Yep.
we've made. So
Yep.
it's exciting. We're in really,
Yeah.
really a good place.
Yep,
Yeah.
we're where we need to be,
Yes.
which is great. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Great.
Jessica.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Amalia, do you want to come up and talk to us about aligning the goals of the organization with the select board goals, which I think is a great idea?
Right off the bat.
Since you started.
So thanks, Jess, for making the lead into my presentation much smoother. So good evening, I'm Amalia McCaffrey, I'm the CIO for the town of Concord. So tonight I'm just going to go over the employee goal tracker project that we have been working on in the technology department. And like we say, we like to assist the departments to digitize and make processes easier through the use of technology. And that's really what we did with this project. Next slide, please. So some of the project considerations, when we were given the task, we wanted to create a tracking system that was for directors and managers to be able to capture the goal progress that was happening throughout the evaluation period. So the HR team came up with a system for gathering all those goals for this session. So there was about 900 plus goals. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to be able to effectively track that. We also wanted to allow the employees, or we wanted to be able to have the department managers and department directors a consistent way of tracking it, so that one department wouldn't be doing it one way and another department would be doing a different way. And so when you look at that data, it's really, really hard to compare. So we wanted to make sure that it was consistent across all the departments. We also, from a technology perspective, we wanted to make sure that we were utilizing something within our technology ecosystem. So I didn't want to have to go out and buy something else for us to be able to do that for a myriad of reasons. We want to be able to support HR when we transition this process over to them, but we also want to be able to help directors and managers if they have questions, and we don't want to create another thing that we have to sort of go learn and do. So we decided to use Microsoft Lists. I don't know if you're familiar. I'm a huge fan. And then the other piece, the other goal was not only did we want to track all this data, but we also wanted to be able to report out the data. So we wanted to make sure that we had data, and it was consistent, therefore we could report it out. And therefore we used another Microsoft tool where we capture the data, the data gets put in a Microsoft List, and then it gets exported into a Microsoft Power BI report, which if you've ever used it, you can really develop a lot of different types of report for different types of audiences, depending on what you're trying to track. So, and then finally, we wanted to make the process repeatable and sustainable. It just couldn't be heavy and just constantly where people had to constantly put a lot of effort in it. So when we were generating, we really wanted the directors and managers really to only do a few things because we wanted to make it a little simpler for them. Next slide. Next slide. It's thinking. It's tired. Okay, so I just gave you a sample of what one looks like. I used Julie's goal. I used my own department of goals. So basically, this is called a card in Microsoft Lists. So every employee that is a full-time, non-union employee has one of these. We put in, it's categorized by their name, whatever the specific action for the goal was, when the completion date is, it was a consistent goal or a stretch goal, and then the notes area. So the only two things that the director or the manager really has to make a change is the percent complete. So we put on milestones of like 25%, 50%, 75%, or 100%, and then we added a note sections, and that's basically what the director or the manager would use when they're talking to their employee and saying, well, goal number 1, you're 25% complete. It's because, blah, blah, it allows the manager to be able to track that. So all of that data has been put in. So we have one card that has, the 3 consistent and 3 stretch for every employee in town. Then the second piece, just so you can sort of see what they would see.
Sorry, if you don't mind, just those things that say specific actions, is this just an example and you
Yes.
actually see like what it is?
Yes, there's actual words in there, but I didn't want to.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, to make it generic. So that's cool. That's what I thought. I just, sometimes and then can you be more than 100%? Because, oh, you can't. All right. Because sometimes you say like achieve 6 and you go like, yeah, but I achieved 10.
No. So
Okay.
we had quite a bit of conversation about that, and we sort of had to make a decision, right? So, because I know there would be people that'd be like, well, I don't want to be 25%. I'm 26.1%.
No,
and
yeah, no, you don't want to get into
and we
that.
had to.
It's the people that want to overachieve.
Yeah,
right?
no.
So you can just put that in the notes then, I suppose. Okay.
And then
Yeah.
there's,
Okay.
So these are the ones that you do your annual review and that each employee identifies the standard goals and then your stretch goals. These are the ones that are coming out of that. So is someone keying that out and
question.
putting it separately into the system? Is that
Yeah,
the manager doing that?
Good question.
Yes, so the way we did it, the way we did it this year is because technology was given a task, and that task was the spreadsheet works, but we need something a little bit more polished, a little bit more refined. So what we did this year is we did all the data entry. We took everything that HR gave us, who had it in a spreadsheet, and we transferred it over into Microsoft Lists, right? Because it wasn't an Excel spreadsheet, so some of that data import wasn't incredibly hard, but you do have to check it to make sure that it's correct. So that's sort of what we did.
Yeah. So it'll be the manager who's going to be updating?
It will
the
be
status?
HR.
HR.
HR will put in all the data fields. The manager, the director will put in the percent
status.
complete
Yeah.
or the notes, correct. And then what you don't see is on the back end is all of the select board goals and all of the town manager
Yeah,
goals that are separate fields that are already aligned in there, that will show you how the reporting is done, and I'll show you that in a little bit.
Okay, yeah, that's,
Sorry, HR is going to, on an ongoing basis, HR is?
Yes.
So every year, like, if there's new goals, we have to be able to update the data in there. So somebody has to be able to put that in.
You did the migration. I guess it's a question of going forward.
Yeah, no, I
Should
mean,
you have to do
I
that,
don't,
or- Yeah.
you all to figure out the details, but I would recommend making it people have to,
Yeah, it could be. I mean,
you
that
got to put in your own goals.
that could be that's a process
Yeah, yeah,
thing,
yeah.
and
It's just
we
just a
really
thought.
try to
Yeah.
stay out of the process
Yep.
piece. We try to give them the tool to be able to make it as simple as possible, and then process handles who puts it in and how often it gets put in and how often it gets evaluated. So if you go to the next slide, Andrea. So this is what the manager would actually see. So let's say, you know, I'm Julie's manager and I'm doing her goals. So I go in, it shows me this little sheet. It has her name. It has, you know, what division she's in, and it has the specific actions for that specific goal. And then it has the completion date. And then I will go in and I'll say, you know, it's 25% or it's 75%. It's her consistent goal, and she's doing well because of X, Y, and Z, and that gets saved into the system. Next slide. So these are the two tracking mechanisms. Now we move over to the reporting tool, right? So the second thing that I was asked to do is, how do we report this data? So this is sample data, so this is not real data, we just put it in there. But this is the output out of the Microsoft list into what we call a Power BI report. And for this one, you know, as an example, we pulled the average percent complete by town manager goal category. So if you look at the bottom, you'll recognize that those were all the town manager goals, and then those are the different departments. You see where each of the departments are at, depending on, you know, what's in the data. So this is just one of many reports. As the information gets populated, what we'll do is we will work with the town manager to sort of see, what do we want to represent, what do we want to track, what do we want directors and managers to be able to track when they're doing the evaluation tool. But what's nice is this is literally the push of a button, right? Once we get all the data and the managers have completed their status, we just push a button and it spits out a report. And we can look at many different ones. What I do caution is you can have too many, so we really want to focus the information that's useful to you and not just be like, show you everything that it can do. It's really like, do you want to see percent complete? Do you want to see the consistent goals? Do you want to see the stretch goals? Do you want to see town manager versus select board? Like, there's all these different sort of things that we could do, but we want to narrow it down so that we're not just pushing reports out with not a lot of value. Next slide. So I love schedule, so kind of this is what's next. So we've developed the tracker, we've conducted testing within my own department, and we use some other departments, so we know that the tracker works. We have been training the directors and the managers one-on-one, because we want them to be able to see what it looks like, what they have to do, what the data comes out of it. So that's what really we're spending the month of March on. And then there'll be 2 evaluation periods for this cycle, keeping in mind that we had a shorter cycle. So for this cycle, the directors and managers will update sometime at the end of April, and then again at the end of May. And we've chosen those because obviously it's good data to know maybe in May where we at with our employees regarding their merit pay. It would give us an idea of what we're tracking towards. And then we'll use the month of June from any feedback or updates on the tool from the departments as they've used it, if we have to modify anything or make some changes. And then basically our hope is for FY26, instead of doing, you know, a spreadsheet, we can start transitioning over to this. And it was really nice to hear that you guys are looking at your goals now. Potentially we could align the timeline and the schedule to kind of work together and be able to start sometime in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
So
That's
barring-
exactly our intention as far as our
Yeah.
goals go.
Yep.
Awesome.
August 1st? Oh, no, that's September. Sorry.
So I assume that the cards are tied into some kind of program year or evaluation year so that it's easy to kind of roll them forward. And I like the idea of being able to link the the goal cards that an individual employee has back all the way up to a town manager goal or a select board goal or both. So we could talk about how much alignment there is. I assume also, though, that our goal in setting intention is typically not to cover, you know, the keeping the trains running on time kind of portion of town operations. So it seems to me that there is another category in there, which is the things that have to get done that is also valuable, and I would want employees to feel like if their particular job function is tied to those elements, that's still critically important to town operations. And so we want to make sure that the system doesn't just highlight, you know, all the special things and you know, to the detriment of those things that really have to get done and that the town employees do so well every day.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Oh,
you.
thank you. It's going to.
Okay. We're only 10 minutes behind. We're doing good.
Yeah,
We're doing
5
well.
minutes, really. Well, yeah. Oh, no, 10 minutes, right.
Okay, so,
Land use matrix.
yes.
Great.
We discussed this, I think, 2 weeks ago. Thank you for sending me the feedback. I collected the comments that we made that night. I watched the video to make sure that I heard them. Several of you wrote to me, and I think I've incorporated or integrated your comments. So I'm sure you've read this, so what other work needs to be done, if any?
I think it looks really good now. Most of my comments had already been incorporated. There's a few typos, and I think it looks really good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wendy,
No, I
you
do.
okay?
No, I think it's fine. And I like that we have sort of identified phase 1 and phase 2.
Yeah, that was one of the things
was
that we
big,
came
yeah,
up with,
yeah.
that I put in there, and I know, Cameron, your comments didn't actually specify phases, but I
No,
think I
no.
worked
Yeah.
in the sequence that you were.
Yeah. I mean, it
talking
was
about.
those two items, and I think, you know, I just said kind of the one was the sort of most kind of urgent or.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So-
Is there a, so my only question was,
Yeah.
was looking at that, is there something about the timing of the phases, or is it? No, I'm just
It's not a
thinking out loud,
milestone.
like, that's all.
No,
Just,
I
I mean,
know.
I don't know that it means the charter has to change, it's just
Yeah.
sort of like, hey, we want, you know, we're thinking the first one in the first 6 months or 9 months or something, I mean, because it says it's gonna be a 12-month thing. And I don't know that we have to specify it in this, but it's just something for us to think about.
Yeah, you know, I think I'd rather see how it gets off the ground.
Okay.
I think that's going to determine a lot as far as the, you know, how well it accelerates out
Yep.
of the gate.
Yep.
Is what I'm a little bit. Mark, do you have anything that you want to
Well,
say?
yeah, and, you know, it's impossible to square this really, because we're trying to kick this group off, and we have the MCI planning and visioning, which is, you know, a bullet train that's headed for June 30th.
Right.
And it's kind of impossible to expect that we could stand up this group, you know, here in the middle of March and have them be ready, really ready to, you know, provide the kind of detailed input into that process then. But, you know, I really want to stay focused on that, you know, that they will, and it does say integrate the efforts and communicate with the MCI advisory board. And we know that the final recommendations and what that means in terms of zoning and how, what those recommendations are is going to evolve. And June 30th is a deadline that has everything to do with when the state said we had to spend money by, and nothing to do with when it's the right time to actually get the work done.
Right?
And I recognize that. So I don't think I think it's such a big element of what's needed here that we don't really have to say a whole lot about it. But I also found myself sort of hunting for the words that express that thought in here. you know, I'm happy
That's the
to,
element.
I'm happy to go to their meeting and express my thoughts directly.
Okay.
And, you know, I think everybody knows what this is about and why that happens. You can't look at this challenge without,
You know how I
Yeah.
make myself feel okay about that?
Yeah.
That issue that you brought up is that I think we need a group that starts looking specifically at DPW
Right.
and public safety
Yeah.
and what's available. And that's where this group is going to start. Okay,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
trying to get it perfect so that the
Yeah.
timing, you know, in March
Right.
is delaying them getting off to, this is what we need, here are the things that are available. You know, that's how
right. Yeah, I think
and
that's
I hear what you're saying, but I
a
don't,
good piece of the charge.
I don't,
There is still a kind of a two-headed objective here. On the one hand, the town facilities is a really critical subcomponent of this. You know, we've made huge investments over the last 2 decades in our schools. We've built 5 brand-new school buildings.
Yep.
We have not built a single brand-new town facility.
Yeah.
You could maybe, if you include the Beatty Center, which was gifted,
Yeah, that's.
you could maybe get there. If you include the West Concord Fire Station, which burned down and was refurbished, that's the
Doesn't
closest we've come
you could include it twice.
to that kind of, so and old buildings cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
look at the kind of money that we spent on schools when we had the old Alcott, Thoreau, and Willard, and, you know, or if you just look at what was being spent on Sanborn and Peabody, having those new buildings really gives you the opportunity to do something else,
Yeah.
to make better use of your program dollars, and to save costs. And so that's one element of this which is super important. But the secondary element is we do have to think about these pieces of property as town assets
Yeah.
that will be utilized by the residential sector, by the commercial sector, recreation, and all of those things. And so the other part of this charge is about making sure that those questions of balance of how much investment to make in one area don't outweigh all the others. And so I think you know, started is better than
Right.
you know, discussed for another time. So let's go with this and get this group going.
Okay. Oh, do you have a-
Oh, I would just like the select board to consider me to be on this committee. I feel like with the background that I have, having been on both of those 2 goals that Mark was just talking about, and the overlap between them, and I won't be on the select board anymore, so I would be very interested, and I will be applying to be on this land use working group. Thanks.
And I was just going to say, Mayor, you had some things highlighted still, one member of the Recreation
Yes, I
Commission.
was
Is
gonna
that a
ask about that.
question?
Yeah,
So we
yeah,
didn't
I-
finish that discussion
Well,
last time.
Cameron had recommended that we add someone from the Rec Commission specifically.
Right.
And to me, that lowered the number of at-large people down to only 1. So I wanted to hear what other people thought. We could expand the number of people. I mean, the MCI Advisory Board has 10, which is an even number, which seems to be working. What do other people think?
It's a lot of people. I mean, I think it's valuable to have recreation because it's one of our strategic areas of needs. But, you know, is it more phase 1 or phase 2? I don't know.
I think it should be an odd number. I think 9 is good. I don't think it should be too big. Whichever
I
way we
agree,
go.
9 is probably as large as you want to be.
Yeah.
I don't know whether this is allowed, but it occurred to me, one of the things that's on the MCI task forces, I'm sorry, the Warner's Pond task forces, that we have some members that are ex officio members. I know that finance committee members can't be on other committees.
That's right.
But just in asking the finance committee to appoint an observer but if somebody is an ex officio member, they're not a voting member, but they basically have the right to speak and deliberate along with the rest of the board. And so I think that there are some, really deep financial questions
Yeah.
that are associated with this land use. And so I would consider, if that's allowed, and I say this because I didn't have a chance to check that first, to just, have the finance committee nominate an ex officio member.
Yeah. I
So
think
instead of
that-
an observer?
Instead of an observer.
Yeah, I think
Well-
that's a good idea.
Well,
What they changed.
I don't know if you can do that, but
Yeah.
I do know that it really is up to the chair of the committee how they want to allow the finance committee observer to participate or not. And I know at the MCI advisory board, the observer was very vocal, and at least at the meetings I was at.
Yeah.
Even though I know he didn't vote, and an ex officio member wouldn't vote either. So I think we can achieve the same thing.
Right.
Without getting into is this okay or not, as long as the chair is okay with that, and the board is okay with that.
I like the words ex officio, though. I think it's more powerful than just an observer who just implies they sit there and observe. I think the Finance Committee has a lot of important contributions, even though they won't be able to vote.
I actually don't know the difference, so I have to defer. I don't know the difference
I
between
guess I'm
observer and
going
ex
there.
officio.
I guess I'm going there. I don't know.
I'm not sure I know.
Oh, either.
If we weren't dealing with the restriction that finance committee members can't serve on any other board,
Right.
I would be promoting the notion that the
Right.
finance committee should have a seat on this group.
Yeah.
Me too.
So I would be there. So what I'm trying to do here is to just promote the finance committee participation to the highest level that we
Yeah.
are
Yes.
Okay.
able to promote it.
Let me I'll put a call into the town moderator, because she appoints people to the finance committee, and hopefully that will be a quick.
Yeah.
But does that mean they have to be a current finance committee? I think of ex officio as somebody with that background experience, but not necessarily currently in that role.
So it'd be like a lifetime appointment.
Well, I mean, they've got ex officio select people
Well,
on
it
committees.
could
You know what I
be-
mean?
I don't know.
I'm
It
not
could be,
sure.
or
What is
they're
ex officio?
designee,
Let's
like
find
the other
out.
ones.
Yeah, let's find out what it means.
Well, I kind of want to get this going.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You know, I
not a
really
show-
do.
Not a
Yeah.
showstopper, I'm just expressing a sentiment.
yeah. Well,
So sorry, then,
Wait.
did we decide on the rec?
No, I
We
think what I'm proposing is that I will ask
was okay with
Carmen
that.
if that's allowed, and if it is, I will put ex officio, and
Okay.
it can
Okay.
be a lifetime appointment.
Okay.
But, okay, do you have a comment, Mr. Brown?
Paul Baum, 11 Ridgewood Road. You've touched on a few of my comments. I'll start from the easy to the hard. I think relationship with this group to town council, and because some of these things you mentioned, EPA and DOJ, in there, it's sort of unspoken that at some point this group is going to have to work directly with or through deputy town manager to integrate with town council. So probably mention of council would be important. Secondly, on Mark, you touched on the finance issue. My question is whether any aspect of capital planning is in the charge of this group, because recommendations have a price tag, and I think at least this group should be mindful of that and maybe just estimate. So capital planning isn't, the final capital planning is not part of this, but I think money is part of this charge. As these various opportunities and uses come into play. The last one is the most difficult one. I found in reading this, if I were on this committee, I'd wonder about the interface with MCI Concord. I'd wonder whether this group should begin after those initial recommendations, those scenarios come to fore, and then take it from there, because it's really not clear. That's a major part of this. Whether it's part of phase one or not, I don't know. Maybe the MCI Concord planning is going to not have municipal uses. So there's maybe this group should wait and figure it out, because I think there's a lot to figure out in that interface. I'm not sure what you can put in the charge on that, but There seems to be, is this an Uber planning group, or does it follow the MCI planning? I'm not sure. So just want to mention the ambiguity. Maybe it's fine to remain there, but it's going to be
Right.
difficult to get going.
Okay. Your first comment as far as legal counsel, we can put something in here that the working group will go to the town manager to ask for resources, because she's, the town manager is the one who allocates legal counsel's time. So we
Fix
can-
that.
It's already
We can
here,
put
it's already here.
Yeah,
Where
It's already the last sentence of the charge.
yeah.
Well, discuss with staff assistance and other financial support. We could
Yeah,
just put
we-
financial or legal support.
Okay, good,
Yeah.
good.
Also, in the recommendations, it does talk about financial considerations and summarize the options. So, putting in cost estimates, it seems to be part of that.
And I really do have confidence that when we're doing the capital budgeting exercise that we do annually,
This will be part.
we have placeholders already, but I think we'll capture this.
Yeah, and to your question about MCI, in my mind, we're going to iterate on this. I think that the MCI visioning and planning, at least the first pass of that, is teed up to happen in the next 3.5 months. And that's about the same time that this group is going to get going and begin to, and I think that at least one of the scenarios that's developed will, in fact, all of the scenarios that are developed will incorporate some level of municipal use, because the wastewater treatment facility is there and it's going to be there. And the question is that all, or is there something else that goes along with that? So we can expect to see that. I think that will lead to some level of understanding of what the community appetite is for that, and hopefully that will actually jumpstart some of the work that this group is doing by doing the details on MCI, while this group starts to also put that in the context of all of the town parcels that are available.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and so, there'll be another pass at that, because remember that the second phase, if I can call it that, of the MCI work is zoning work.
Right.
And that zoning work will actually be our statements, zoning work and actually RFP input into the state's RFP for disposition of the property, assuming we go that way, will sort of indicate community preferences such as we know them, and that's going to come at, significantly after June 30th. So there'll be time while for this group to have that. And we've obviously built in the linkage here by asking for a member of the MCI Advisory Board to participate.
Thank you. Okay, so what I'm hearing is a few changes. Add legal into the last sentence. Ask Carmen about designating a FinCom as an ex officio member. Keep the Rec Commission as one of the seated members and keep the number to 9. And with those changes, are people comfortable with this?
I'm comfortable, but can I just ask one?
Go
So
ahead.
is the select board person here not a liaison? They are an
They're
appointed
voting
member, so they'll be like a
yes.
voting member?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, can I have a vote to approve this?
Okay. Move to approve the draft charge for the land use working group as discussed and amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good, thank you. So Andrea, tomorrow or soon after this, I want to send out letters to all of these boards and committees and ask them to discuss it and to nominate someone. So if you help me with
We
that.
can raise that at the chair's breakfast.
Yeah, I was going to
too.
say, that's probably, say it once.
Yes.
What did you say?
Said say it once or discuss it once.
Yeah.
Right, because the chairs will all be there, right?
The chair's
Presumably.
breakfast is on Wednesday morning, so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
timely.
good, and I will. Okay, very good, thank you. Very
Great.
good. Okay, what's next?
Chair's
Chair's
report.
report, that's me. Okay, I have a few things to talk about. I want to talk briefly about APP 10 since it's in the works. I already talked about the MMA webinar as far as a way to get new people. The other thing that I want to mention is that in your packet is a letter from the planning board dated October
Yeah.
23. You wondered, did you notice that?
I did, yes,
Great.
I saw
Okay.
that.
Oh my God,
This was
I didn't see the date.
Right, so this,
Yeah.
remember, we were talking about all the different things,
Something in
right? So
23?
This
It
was
was
not
from
an update to
23.
the policy, but Terry, you were not wrong, that something happened in 2023.
Oh,
Yeah,
my
right.
gosh.
Yeah.
It was not an update to the policy, it was a letter, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that letter was in response to, I don't remember.
It was
But
a
it's, but it's
yeah.
good, it's good information.
Yes.
So just to
Yes.
take
Linda
into.
Miller wrote it.
Take,
Yes.
Linda Miller wrote it as the
Yeah.
chair of the,
Okay.
of
Yes.
the planning board.
It is another helpful input
Yeah.
into what we're
It's
doing.
good.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, I was impressed. I was going to say he updated it and got feedback from the planning board in 2 weeks. Wow.
I'm like, I read it and I'm like, hey, wait, I didn't hear about
Magic.
this.
I know.
Like,
I didn't look at the date. I was
It wasn't on the agenda, wait, what happened?
That's good. Okay, I want to bring to your attention that we have some hearings. We don't meet, well, we're going to meet next Monday, and then we don't meet until the 14th. But the hearings in prep for town meeting are happening in early April, and we should be at those hearings because we've got to make recommendations as a select board on every one of the articles. So to hear the presentation, to hear the community feedback is an important thing for us to be there. Okay, so I wanted to get that on.
What's the date of the first one? Yeah.
4/9 is the planning board. 4/10 is FinCom.
Okay.
We're 4/14, and then 4/15 is Finance Committee. So we should be at all those.
Yep.
Is there one done on April 2nd?
Yeah, April's,
What's April
oh,
2nd?
no, not April 2nd.
No.
No, there's something else.
What is on April 2nd?
April 3rd is the Warner's.
Reviewing the motions,
April
I had it
3rd
from the
is
town meeting study
Warner's
committee.
Pond.
Maybe not.
No, wait,
Oh, there's probably a separate prep meeting.
Yeah, review,
That
yes.
yeah,
Prep
for
meeting to review
Carmen's
the
having,
motions,
could be,
yes.
yeah.
Okay,
But
all right.
we don't have to be
That's
at
not a
that.
hearing.
Yeah.
I have to
Yeah.
be at that.
Yep.
and
Got it.
You'll be glad. Anyway, okay. The other thing I wanted to mention is that the Minuteman rep, as we know, Steve Ledoux is leaving us. I've got a person in mind who I think would be good, but I also want to make a call out now to anyone else who would like to be considered for the rep to the Minuteman Vocational School. Please fill out a green card.
Volunteer card.
Oh, yeah, thank you,
Volunteer
volunteer card. And then finally, what I want to say is that back to the MCI Community Outreach, as you know, we've got consultants, they're going to be doing a lot of work, they're going to be doing a lot of community outreach events through the end of June. So to your boards and committees, and I will announce this at the chair's breakfast, don't plan anything for June. Okay?
For June?
Clear the decks for June.
June, okay.
Okay? Because
Here, that'll be easy. No, I like-
Oh, boy.
Just super early, but so that you have a general idea, they are talking about one of the community outreach sessions on possibly April 28th or 29th. So
oh my gosh.
don't hold me to that, but that's the kind of working. We'll hear more about that on Monday
Okay.
when the MCI advisory board
I
meets.
think we have a select board meeting the 28th.
On the 28th, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we're going to encourage the 29th, but I'm just saying, what,
Okay.
I'm just reading out something from a meeting that I was in.
Wait,
So
what did you just say?
The agency
Yep,
is
agency.
trying to set up for their first major community outreach meeting in the time frame of April 28th or 29th. So
Wow.
they're trying to get in,
It's good.
Okay.
because
Okay.
we don't have very much time for
Wait till
this
June.
stuff to.
That's a long
So it's
take
earlier than I
place.
thought. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's good. That's
clear the
good.
decks as of April
Yeah.
28th.
Yeah, so May and
June.
June, I mean, because
May and
recommendations need to be made in June,
Yeah,
which means
it's-
that
Most of it
outreach
should be done,
and
yeah.
stuff has to happen.
Oh, my
So
gosh.
They're on a
Of
track
course,
to try to finish their initial initial discovery by the end of March,
Yeah, that's what I saw on their
Because-
timeline.
Wow.
you know. and,
Okay, that's good
I
to
mean,
know.
we
Mark?
we
I
can
got
all,
my- I got
the
my
next time
timing
we
on.
hear about, a wonderful state earmark, which we are forever grateful for getting, we need to recognize that that's 12 months of money to be spent in 4.5 months of time.
3 months, yeah.
is
Yeah.
what that process really
Mark,
leads to.
has everybody given up on trying to get an extension? Is it completely impossible? Like, can we at least earmark stuff in June and spend it in July? I mean, is there any hope.
So there is discussion going on.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
About whether there's any appropriation request for next year.
All right.
About getting access to the funds that were available for this year. And so, I know that staff is talking with our legislative reps. I had a conversation with.
Great.
So we're trying to do what we can.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
the reason that we have a backup article.
We have an article.
Right, I understand that.
Also because if that doesn't come through, then
Sure.
we need to be able to keep this going.
Okay.
Okay, I'm done. What's next? Town manager's report. Megan, you want to give us a update on what's happening?
Yes, thank you very much. A weekly operations report was sent out and posted on our town website earlier this afternoon. I have a couple of things to highlight here. One is our Concord 250th bench project.
The benches are up. I've seen them all over town. Yeah,
I
yeah,
just saw it.
absolutely.
Beautiful.
15 were installed over the weekend as part of a 250th effort here. This was made possible through a grant through the Massachusetts Office of Travel and Tourism via the Destination Capital Grant. There, we had some dreary weather today, but people were out sitting on them and using them. This amenity will remain in town to benefit residents and visitors for years to come. So I just want to make sure we're appreciating, sending some gratitude to the private property owners who welcomed the benches, including Middlesex Bank, Wright Tavern, First Parish, Concord Provisions, and Concord New London Style Pizza, and the Concord Free Public Library. Also contributing to the project were Concord Public Works, Concord Visitor Center, Division of Natural Resources, Historic District Commission. We want to thank Mike Sprague for installation, Mimi Graney, the Economic Vitality Manager, for overseeing this project. So, it seemed like, of course, we can get some benches in, in 18 months or so, but it took the whole time, but getting them in before the 250th, as you can see, this is coordinating a lot of different private property agreements, a lot of different kind of discussions, having this installation within the historic district. It was a big effort, and it's exciting to see it's a new amenity. There's a few updates here from broadband updates that have links, light plant updates, if folks are interested to click through those. I want to mention something for public safety. There's a update here from the Emergency Communication Center. It has all sorts of data about the amount of calls that were processed and things like that, if people are interested. One thing I want to highlight is that our Emergency Communication Manager, Stephen Johnson, was the closing keynote speaker for the Association of Public Safety Communication Officials, APCO Western Regional Conference in Portland, Oregon, in March this month. So he did a closing keynote, maintaining the true north when things go south, a moving talk about professional and personal perseverance during difficult times. And he also did a breakout session entitled How to Lead High Impact Teams. So I just wanted to highlight that. He's a key player in our Emergency Operations Center for the 250th, and he's been recognized to speak at, on a national level, which is exciting. Great.
I got a question recently from a group in town, Mothers Out Front, about our resilience. How resilient are we? And it was things like this that helped me answer that question. So, when I read this, sometimes there's just like all these acronyms I don't understand. But if I read behind it, then I see that we are in good shape.
Absolutely. There was some talk about recreation earlier. Spring registration is open, and there's so many programs for people to take advantage of. So folks can take a look at this. We are also, we were talking about HR recently, and about how many people we're hiring, and I can tell you as acting town manager this week, I am approving all sorts of summer camp counselors that are being recruited, a lot of them local from the community or from Carlisle or around the area. So I want to mention that is underway. We have a new hire in recreation. We have Molly Magnette. She started at the Hunt Recreation Center as customer support specialist. She's working a desk.
Very good.
There's also another link to Concord Library updates. Council on Aging, we have an award-winning logo design, second place medal, and the Senior Center's countrywide network. So congratulations. The real star of this report are pictures of the alpacas that visited the Concord seniors.
Sir
they
Eric.
attended there's a lot of adorable pictures here. There's also a Valentine's party.
Best coiffed alpaca I've ever seen.
Best what?
Coiffed. I mean, look at that.
As long as they don't spit.
That's nice hair.
Oh, is he good? Good, because they're terrible.
So I encourage the public to review this biweekly report. It has a lot of good information and great pictures, usually from the Council on Aging. So thank you. to
Yeah,
Jess and
good
her team for
pictures.
that.
Yeah.
And
That's
great.
That concludes my report this evening.
Thank you. Thank you. That was very good. Okay, liaison reports. Anybody have any questions for anyone around a liaison report? And then I'll turn it over to you, Mark. Do you have any questions?
I just had one update. It was just an interesting observation. So the Tax Relief Committee was formed, and there were 4 out of 7 members were brand new, have never been on a committee before.
Great.
And of course, the first task is to assign a chair, right? So we start the meeting with some introductions. People provided their background, and you get to chair, and it's like, who wants to be chair? And everyone looked, it's like, but I was ready. So we assigned a chair for the day. I think we're going to ultimately have 2 chairs. It's going to be a co-chair model just for the time commitment. So Cameron, that might be something for the APP, because we don't really talk about co-chairs. We talk about chairs. It works out fine, I think, usually, but somebody will probably have to be primary for the purpose of the town clerk's office.
Yeah. How that's an option.
Yeah. The other thing was sort of just interesting. We were talking about, the goal is to evaluate the select board's goal around the tax relief, the residential tax exemption. And we talked about it was supporting economic diversity and allowing elderly people to live in town. And people, they immediately zoomed in and said, what does that mean? And I'm like, so that may come back. I think it was intended to be some housing diversity, but don't be surprised if the committee comes back and tries to ask, because they're going to have to quantify it. To measure it, you got to quantify it a little bit better, clarify it. So
You mean quantify, how would we?
what does that mean, economic diversity? What did you mean? So if they have to go out and model, did we improve economic diversity?
Right.
What does that mean? Are you talking about people of different income levels because we don't have income, or is it diversity and sort of the pricing of housing around town? I'm just
Wouldn't we
they're gonna
be
get into
asking them
details.
to recommend to us how to measure that?
No, I think
Okay.
they will. They
Okay,
asked
good.
me, and I'm like, oh, okay, well,
Okay, great.
we'll dig a little further. I think we really need to dig a little further.
Part
So
of the dialogue.
and I'll follow.
I like
yeah.
the idea of the dialogue. If they come back with questions or we have discussion,
Absolutely.
that's great.
Yep. No, I think, and it's a great committee. There's a lot of smart people on that
Yep, it
committee.
is.
So
I know, I was at the
they're
first
off to a
meeting.
good start. So.
Wendy, I have a question for you on, I think it was the ZBA.
Yeah.
There's some ambiguity about the building permit for the Thoreau residences.
No, I don't think it's ambiguity. There were a list of waivers that
Okay.
they went through, and
Yep.
one of the waivers that they had asked for was, and I actually think in the 40B it says in the 40B application,
Yep.
there's some regulation says that application fees can be frozen at the time of the application, but they were interpreting it to be building fees because they had a prior project where building fees increased over the course of their project. So they wanted some assurance that building fees would not change. And so
Building
that was going to
permit.
be building permit. Yeah, I might say building fees, any fees
okay.
associated with the building, which I think, well, that's not going to happen. But they were going to check it out.
So they wanted the building permit to be
They want building fees to
calculated
be-
off of an earlier design.
They wanted to take a snapshot at the time, what are the fees
of when
today?
they applied, I see.
And make sure that they don't increase over the course of the project. That's.
Do you have any questions? I have a question for you, Cameron, about your, one of your things, you were talking about the Act to Modernize Municipal Meetings, about remote.
Correct.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, that
Yeah, those are the
passed
bills.
today.
Did it pass?
Yeah, today it went through, I think. I'm pretty sure
Really?
I read that.
No, I think.
No, well, because it was a House and a Senate. They have to
Yeah,
reconcile
I
the
don't
two.
know
It
what
didn't
happened
pass.
today. I just
I don't know. Megan was
I
nodding.
can give you
to-
an update. Let me just
It was
pull
just
it up.
proposed, so I'm sorry, what's your,
10C. It's the.
The question is that even if that does pass,
Yeah.
we won't be able to use remote voting at this year's town meeting. You're aware of that?
no. I mean, I don't, I
Is
haven't
it
read the whole
feasible?
thing,
Yeah,
but what I understood it to be is, this is again a thing that would allow
It
if
would.
this passes at the
Yes.
state level, that would
Yes.
then
Mm-hmm.
allow the town, if they chose to
Yes.
enact something that says you could have remote voting
Yes.
at a town meeting.
Oh,
Yes, but
okay.
that would be
That's
a warrant.
different.
That would have to be something the town would have to,
Have to be in
It
the.
would have to be an
Local
article
Yeah.
on the warrant.
that's my understanding. It would
So
have to be
so the
town would-
soonest it could happen would be next,
Right.
if we had a special election, a special town meeting, or the next year's
Correct.
town meeting.
Right.
So the,
to approve it for the,
so
yeah,
the
I guess you
town,
could approve it for that year potentially.
Maybe, I don't know, I haven't thought of that.
Potentially, but it's not happening for this
It's not, yeah,
year's
so
town.
when I read it, it was like, I hope you didn't expect
So
that.
I
Yeah.
said the wrong thing. The thing that went through today that I read was about continuing hybrid and Zoom meetings.
wait, so was it the existing
And
COVID?
it- and it-
Or is it
and
the House and the
That's-
Senate
It
bill?
talked about voting.
Because the
different
House and the
things.
Senate bill
Oh, that's a
has that
different one.
provision. So,
One of them, I don't know all the details, I confess. One of them, it does allow.
the House and the Senate
Allow the
bills. Mm-hmm.
option of remote or hybrid participation also in representative or open town
Yep,
meeting.
that's the,
Including voting, that's the
Yeah.
key.
yes,
Yes.
yes.
That's the key.
Oh.
Yes.
Having somebody vote remotely is different than just having them participate
Yes.
remotely.
So-
Participate, you said vote.
We have to see
Interesting.
where
It
Yeah,
that-
was
voting,
voting.
voting is a, yeah, that's the specific thing you have to look for.
Yeah,
Um,
but, so I don't know if something happened today.
Well, we'll have to
Yeah.
track
I mean, it was
those votes.
originally just so that we could continue doing
That's
what we're
right.
doing.
Right.
During
And then it
hybrid
kind of
Correct.
expanded into.
Right, but not from us,
And then it
from,
exp-
this is
right.
expanded at the, somebody
So,
submitted at
I-
the state
okay,
level, yes.
I just wanted to make sure that we didn't set an expectation with the town that this is something that might enable remote voting
No.
at this year's
No,
town
no,
meeting.
absolutely not.
Impact
No.
is because this year we had a thing that said we want to, remember, we said we want to
Home rule
solicit
petition.
through home rule petition.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
possible this could pass before that
Possible.
petition.
Right.
It's possible.
Right.
And then we don't need
And
that.
then you don't need the petition,
Right.
that's all.
Okay,
I mean, we
Might
should know,
impact the petition.
got
we
it.
should know by the end of March, because the pressure's on to get something passed.
It is, you're right.
Right, and so we'll
Yeah,
know if
because
it's
it
the House and
expires.
Senate.
It
Yes.
expires at the end of March.
Yes.
Okay, so Mark, you didn't
Okay,
give us a. so
yeah,
give
I
us.
didn't give you a written, and we covered most of the things that I've talked about along the way here. I did want to call out, just for people who are listening, that many of us, and myself included, went to the Azabet River Bridge
Oh, yeah.
Information Center, and I think that some of that information is now posted on the
Yes, it is. It's all there.
site.
In the
And it's
video.
very interesting, and it
It was
is,
in-
you know,
it
right
was
in the
our liaison.
the middle of
Yeah.
West Concord. And so anybody that hasn't had a chance to look at what that, you know, what the visualizations that the planners came up with for that bridge. It's a bridge that's parallel to the train tracks in West Concord and would connect the Baker Avenue and Novo Riverside to the West Concord parking lot, basically. West Concord trains is very interesting, and so.
Beautiful. It
Yeah,
really
it's
is.
just-
Very nice.
Yeah, well, it's
You know,
really nice.
And
I
it's
just
gonna be-
think of it as it's one of those pieces that understanding what that proposal looks like is very important when you want to start to also think about Warner's Pond or MCI. That's, you know, the third leg of that stool in there,
Yeah.
which is really useful to
Well,
do.
we've been working
Um,
on that project for
Yeah.
more than 15 years now.
Yes.
Because,
Unbelievable.
so just quickly, the two other things that I'll mention is, because I did it last year and I didn't want to just say yes without mentioning it, this year's Holocaust Remembrance will be Sunday, May 4th at 7 PM in the townhouse hearing room. And the Human Rights Council is invited, well, they extended an invitation to me, but if somebody else feels strongly about doing it, is to do a welcome and, you know, and a reading, they handle that. And I said I'd be happy to do it, but I didn't want to just say yes without, you know, if there's somebody else on the board who really, they typically have a very interesting and engaging speaker.
When is it?
Yeah.
The 4th of May?
Sunday, May 4th at 7 PM.
Where?
Here in the townhouse hearing room. So that's the Holocaust Remembrance. Last year, Lynn Salinger's father, who first name I can't remember, who as a boy used to go and listen to Albert Einstein play the violin in his house because he grew up in Princeton, New Jersey. So it's that kind of storytelling. He was also, his family was evacuated from Nazi Germany. but it's just that sort of history and stories about Concord that's always very interesting. I do not know who the speaker is this year. Also, I mentioned earlier, but I'll say it again, Warner's Pond Task Force public session, April 3rd. So please pay attention to that. And at the Commission on Disabilities meeting this week, on Thursday the 13th, we had some parents come who wanted to wanted some additional attention on the accessibility for children in wheelchairs for the Thoreau Playground project. And it's been common for projects of that nature to go and have a dialogue about their design with the Commission on Disabilities, which has architects and landscape people on it among that. And they were certainly raising some concerns about whether or not that project, which is on town property, was going to be as accessible as it might possibly be. So I know the Commission on Disabilities was going to ask the school committee for some dialogue about that, and I know there's been some comments at school committee meetings about that too, but that's just something that, for your awareness, it did come up at that meeting.
And just a comment as a follow-up, because there
Commission on
were,
Disabilities meeting,
And when was that?
Thursday night.
and there were some people at the school committee raising concerns over the over the playground design. It was supposed to be designed to be accessible, obviously, and they were concerned it was not. The school committee did comment that the design hasn't actually truly started, and it will start when it's the fundraising. I think they have a design idea, so they sort of left open the idea that they would have more follow-up on the design and include people. They included someone from their CPAC on the committee as well. They wanted, I don't know, Mark, I think it would be a good idea for the committee to talk to them one-on-one. I think that would be really important.
The
And that they-
commissioners were going to reach out and try and get some more information and offer some assistance on there. I know there's active fundraising going on in the community. There's, close to $500,000, I think, has been raised already.
Yeah, they're only $60,000 short of their target.
For this project.
Doing really well.
And they've got a fundraising deadline of 3 weeks, there is a website, thoreausbackyard.com, which, covers this project in some detail and gives you a sense of what it is. Again, I think it's mostly for our awareness right now, but it is a conversation.
Thank you. Anything else?
No?
Motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
8:46.